Oh, you've gotta be kidding me!
Welcome to Scum Island, Bunna.
Wait, are you a trash bag in this world?
I'm whatever I need to be.
Alright, well this is gonna be confusing, but look, there's no way I can play Scum. I don't have time for this.
You don't have a choice. I make the rules, and the rules are simple. Your challenge is to survive 100 days on Scum Island on hardcore difficulty.
No.
What?
I said no. There's no way in hell I'm playing this game on hardcore difficulty. This game is impossible as it is, and I haven't played in literal years.
But you can't say no.
Yes, I can, because you want me to entertain you. But that's only gonna happen if we can reach a compromise. I'll complete your 100-day challenge, but just normal Scum, on a single-player world.
I'll concede on the normal Scum, but on an official PvP server.
Fine, but I get a bazooka.
No bazooka, but there's a checklist of things you'll need to accomplish.
Well, how is that a compromise for taking my bazooka?
Look, Bunna, I'm like a whore with hip replacements. I'm only so flexible.
Fine. 100 days on Scum official PvP, and I'll do my best to complete your checklist.
Deal. Now buckle up, Buttercup, because this game is f***ing rough.
Alright. Let's get started.
And where down we go, 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 go. Oh, where down we go, 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 go. So where down we go, 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 go.
Day 1 started with me plummeting towards the Earth at a rapid rate. Originally, I intended on this challenge taking place on a hardcore server, however hardcore Scum is f***ing stupid. The difficulty is crazy hard, the UI is disabled, and you can't access your map, but the most egregious thing of all is that you're locked into first person. Now I love first-person survival games, but in my opinion, Scum is a terrible one. Melee weapons look clunky and handle oddly, zombies are way too fast to properly track, and the looting UI is way too obtrusive to be enjoyable in a first-person mode. Now I'm sure a lot of people out there disagree with me, and that's okay. It's just not for me. So with that being said, hardcore servers were out and normal PvP servers were in. Now Scum is a game that I haven't touched in many years, so despite my extended playtime, I'm coming into this game extremely blind. A lot has changed since the last time that I played, but the one thing that hasn't is the general gameplay loop. Spawn, loot shit, kill shit, and repeat. The general purpose of Scum is to survive for as long as possible in this post-apocalyptic, Hunger Games-inspired universe where you play as a prison inmate. PvP is always a possibility, and you're actually rewarded heavily for taking down other players, whether that be for their loot or to build fame points. Now I happen to choose one of the lesser populated PvP servers just to give myself a little bit of a fighting chance when it came to figuring things out. Don't worry though, because we can and will encounter many other players along the way. Now, I'd like to establish a few things early on here so you guys know what to expect. Normally, a day in Scum lasts for 6 hours, with approximately 4 hours of it being daylight and 2 hours being nighttime. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but this challenge taking over 600 hours to complete sounded like actual cancer, so I come up with a compromise. My days in this challenge are 30 minutes long, or 50 hours of gameplay in total. This gameplay all took place on a live PvP server over a multitude of weeks, meaning that some of these days you're about to watch aren't going to make a ton of sense back to back. For instance, I might end one day when it's bright and sunny out, only to start the next day when it's pitch black. Just understand that I probably recorded these clips on separate days, or in some cases between server resets, so the timing might not always make sense. The other thing I'd like to mention is how I approached looting in this game. Simply put, I looted pretty much everything at any given time. Anytime you see a nightstand, or a dresser, or a pile of garbage, rest assured that I ruffled my little bunna paws in there looking for stuff. I say this because Scum has so many containers to loot, and if I showcased every little thing that I decided to check, this video would be enormously longer than it already is. I will make sure to point out important things that I come across, or comical items that I think I need to draw attention to. Oh, nice. Got a waste bag. Sick. Lastly, I'd like you all to keep in mind just how dark it is at times. Walking through the city streets like this isn't bad because of all the street lamps, but inside of buildings or out in the forest can be really dark. I know that YouTube's video compression would worsen this darkness even further and make for a pretty poor viewing experience for those of you watching. To combat this, I've decided to boost the game's gamma for most of the nighttime scenes while I'm playing. What I'm seeing on screen is significantly darker than what you're all seeing right now, so if I happen to miss something or someone, please forgive me. Anyways, I had been looting this town the entire time that I've been talking so far, and all of my obsessive looting was starting to pay off. The rest of day 1 was spent chugging through SCUM's tutorial missions. These things didn't even exist back when I played, or at least not this simple and easy to follow. They had me making a wooden spear, crafting a courier backpack, and my first ever bow. After this, I learned more about the game's extensive metabolism and health system.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sure that some people love systems like this that go super deep into your character's stats, but as a returning player, this is just really overwhelming. There are so many vitamins and dietary things to keep track of that I honestly didn't even bother. I just ate stuff as I went along and used meds when it was appropriate, and things just kind of worked out. Lastly, I learned about SCUM's building system. This basically lets you place down these holographic blueprints in the world that can be filled with resources to complete the project. Campfires are obviously pretty easy, but higher-end base building was more complex and required a lot of secondary components to pull off. After plowing through all the basics, I finally reached a point where the tutorial wanted me to travel to an outpost. I found a fountain inside of the city and decided to take a couple sips to maintain my hydration levels. Little decisions like this are ultimately what keep you alive in a game like SCUM. You never know when you'll find your next meal, so you might as well take advantage of it while you can. After this, I came across my first zombie and decided to take him down with a bow and arrow. There's not much to say here because he died pretty quickly. I found a sick new biker jacket inside of a dresser, but more importantly, I found a kilt just begging to be worn.
Oh, sick, I found a kilt. It's only got one inventory space, though. Oh, but it's so fucking sick. I'm gonna keep it.
SCUM is a game that doesn't shy away from the details, and by that, I mean your character will constantly need to piss and shit. It's pretty comical, but it can be really dangerous if it happens at the wrong time. Inventory management is literally half of this game, if not more. I plan on cutting most of it for the sake of saving time, but understand that I am constantly shifting things around and changing the position of certain items to squeeze as much into my body as humanly possible. Not long into my looting session, I encountered my first melee fight with a zombie.
Whoa! Okay.
My goal for today was to reach the outpost that the tutorial was guiding me to, and after an extremely long run through the dark forest, I had finally reached my destination. Outposts are basically these big safe zones full of merchants that you can buy and sell things from, and let's just say that they have some pretty interesting characters.
If you want to come in the back, all you need to do is ask.
The general stores seem to be the real meat and potatoes of this place because you could buy a lot of useful things from this guy, and some not so useful things. Interacting with this little book on the desk also offers quests, which are basically continuations of the tutorials I've been following. They offer a task to complete, and upon doing so offers cash and fame points. My first quest was to locate a mobile phone and a battery to go with it, so at least I had some kind of an objective to work towards. Outposts also have banks where you can deposit money into an account for safekeeping. Every time I visited an outpost in this series, I always banked my cash before leaving, reasoning that if I happened to die, at least I still had money in the bank. I decided to liquidate pretty much everything I didn't need to make some starter cash and lighten my load for faster travel. I opted to purchase a needle with some of the money that I had made, which I then used to craft an improvised sewing kit. I used said improvised sewing kit to repair all of my gear and prepare myself for the next adventure. If I was going to survive in SCUM, I needed more arrows. The process of acquiring arrows is somewhat simple, but time-consuming. I had to cut down some bushes, cut the longer sticks into smaller sticks, and then mass craft those smaller sticks into wooden arrows. This took a long time. The lack of peripheral vision while doing all of this stuff sparked the idea that I should check my game settings and tinker with the field of view.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, this was much better. On my way back to town, I came across this old cannon bunker and managed to find a pretty awesome weapon.
Ooh. Ooh.
This ballista bow was extremely powerful, and while my character could pull back the string, he couldn't keep it pulled back for very long.
Oh man, I can't hold it for very long.
That's what she said.
I spent a considerable amount of time running back to town, and by the time I made it there, my guy was getting pretty hungry. While inspecting the metabolism tab to gather some information, this happened.
Whoa! Ho! Ho! Sit down. Sit down!
Melee is effective, but the ballista bow is just magnificent. It honestly trivialized most of the zombie fights with how powerful it was and how cheap the ammo was to make. Little garages like this were important because they often had advanced workbenches inside. In this case, it had a drill press. These were used to manufacture things like ammo, weapon attachments, or advanced tools. I used it to craft a couple nails, as I planned on making an improvised toolbox in the near future. I got pretty excited when I managed to find one of the greatest items in the game inside of this one cupboard.
Oh my god.
Bunny slippers were essentially worthless, but hilarious and very fitting for someone such as myself. I would later replace them with better shoe wear that held up on the rough terrain, but for now I enjoyed them. I also managed to snag a melee weapon holster, which was perfect for storing a knife inside of. The only other notable thing I came across was this bar of soap, which could be used to wash my gear and keep it nice and clean. I always took the time to root through kitchens when I came across them. Little bits of food here and there went a long way to keeping me alive. While you might think that Scum seems pretty chill so far, things can turn chaotic pretty quickly.
Holy hell.
Luckily, I maxed out my character's endurance, and this ballista bow was insane, so I managed to squeeze out of most situations like this. I was bound and determined to find a mobile phone to continue my quest line, but I wasn't having any luck so far. That is, unless you consider this carrot that I found.
Oh, a carrot. Ah.
This little pop-up military base inside of the city was piquing my interest. Places like this usually had weapons or armor, so I wanted to check it out. While I didn't find any weapons, I did manage to find a metal detector.
Metal detector? Oh my god, pilot glasses? Hell yeah. Metal detector?
I thought that I remembered this thing being used to scan for mines if you were looting another player's base, which didn't do me a whole lot of good right now, but I figured I would hang on to it. Then I started to hear some strange noises coming from inside the encampment.
What the f*** is that sound? Oh, it's a clown. Oh.
Before pursuing this clown, I decided I should empty my bladder so I didn't have to abruptly piss while fighting.
Alrighty then.
I was still hearing some weird clown noises coming from this area though, so I decided to investigate a little further.
Oh my god! Woo! Woo!
Yup, I about had a heart attack here, but at least I avoided the explosion. While exploring the center of this shopping bazaar, I stumbled across something incredible.
What the f***? Oh! Oh my god! Yes, please!
While this thing looked sweet and was probably an upgrade to my ballista, I decided it wasn't going to be a weapon for me at this point in time. I could rapid-fire arrows from my bow, whereas this thing was a single-shot weapon. On top of this, the crossbow bolts required feathers to craft, which I had no idea where to find and wouldn't be able to easily craft on the go. Either way, I decided to drop that metal detector in favor of this thing so I could sell it back at the outpost. I managed to find a skull inside of this city and thought to myself, hey, this place will have guns! I failed to realize that Scum takes place in Europe and not in America.
Boom!
I did manage to find some insulating rubber gloves though, and a box of bobby pins, both of which will be useful for lockpicking. The quest for the mobile phone was real though. When I said before that I check every bag of garbage that I came across, I meant it. But when I started finding lots of high-quality metal inside of this construction vehicle, my objective temporarily changed. I knew I was going to need a metal axe for base building, and looking at my current inventory, I knew that I had most of everything I needed to make it happen. I spent an ungodly amount of time cutting down bushes and trees for all the resources I needed, but eventually I pulled it off and had a sweet new metal axe. Now I only wanted this thing for base building and survival, but it also made for a pretty sick melee weapon.
Where the f***? Dude, come out of a tree?
The metal axe could also double as a can opener, which was great because my guy was starting to starve to death. I made it to the outpost by the end of the day and sold all of my valuable stuff to the general store before calling it quits. I paid a visit to the armory to see what they had in stock, but alas, everything was out of my price range or required way too many fame points. Good news though, that crossbow I found was worth almost $400, which was a pretty hefty sum of money. In fact, it was almost enough to buy a single can of beef ravioli. Was this a fair trade? Probably not, but I was really hungry and desperate. I decided to use that bar of soap I found to wash all of my gear in the nearby lake. I wasn't entirely sure what would happen if my gear became too dirty, but I didn't really want to find out. I set out in a different direction from the outpost this time to investigate another POI nearby, which ended up being a small mining operation. Shortly into looting, I discovered a boombox, and you best believe I shouldered that motherfucker.
Till I bust out my boombox and play this song.
This place actually had a lot of zombies to deal with, but luckily my shots were on point and I made quick work of them. I found a bedroll inside of this little bunker and decided to take it in case it was worth anything. Now this place had a lot of salt. No, I mean like a lot of salt. I felt like the only horde blowjob convention there was that much salt.
Give it a good tug.
Now, I had no idea if this stuff was actually worth anything or not, but I figured I would at least try to carry one bag back to the outpost to find out. It took a bit of inventory management to get the bedroll, boombox, and the bag of salt all in a single trip, but I figured it out. Flash forwards an embarrassing amount of time, and it was worth $42. That wasn't even remotely worth it. The bedroll was worth over $200 though, and the boombox snagged as much as the salt did, so all in all, I wasn't displeased. I decided to visit the mechanic and discovered that he sells bicycles once I reach 80 fame points, so my new goal was to acquire 80 fame points. Lastly, I opted to spend some of my hard-earned boombox money on a new credit card. This one came with a single-digit PIN combination, which I'm assuming is to keep other players from accessing your funds if they were to kill you. My PIN combination was 5. Good luck guessing that one, you pieces of shit! My goal for today was to head back to the town I started in and loot the daylights out of it. Along the way I found this little tree stand, and sitting on the railing was a shiny new pair of hiking boots. As much as I hated replacing my awesome bunny slippers, they were constantly wet and damaged, so I figured it was time to swap them.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Further down the road I found a gas station, and while this wasn't much of a significant discovery on its own, this cruiser motorbike was. Now back when I played SCUM years ago, you could find ready-to-go vehicles sitting in the open world and just take them, but since then things have changed. Now it seems like when you find a vehicle, it's in a certain state of disrepair, and you have to find certain parts to make it functional. I was in no way prepared to tackle that challenge right now, so I just left it. I did manage to rip off the front fender and seat though, thinking that I could probably sell them for a nice profit once I got back to the outpost. I found another point of interest further down the road, and decided to leave the bike parts inside of this building for safekeeping.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
After a bit of searching, I came across an extremely useful item.
Ooh. Oh my god. Haha.
Now I realized that I had just made a metal axe to assist with base building, but an actual metal axe like this was more durable and lighter to carry around, so all in all it was simply a definitive upgrade. I found a brown leather backpack to replace my extremely colorful skull backpack, and came across a small toolbox that I used to repair my bow. Probably the biggest find was this military quiver though. As far as I knew, this was the best quiver in the game, capable of holding up to 36 arrows or a bunch of junk, which is mostly what I used it for. The last discovery that I made in this place was this sexy-ass red tractor.
Oh my god. Dude, this thing would be amazing.
Now I don't often get excited over tractors, but this thing would be incredible for getting around or beginning my base construction. Unfortunately, it was in a state of disrepair that I simply didn't know how to remedy. So after gawking at it for about 3 minutes, I eventually left it alone. Good thing too, because things were about to get interesting.
Oh, Claire. Oh boy. Oh, this ain't good.
In case you missed it, I'll replay the video in slow motion for you. This player was running down from the hillside at the same time that I was running towards the entrance, and I think we both spotted each other at the same time. Now, SCUM has a system in place where if your character doesn't have a direct line of sight of another player, you can't see them and they can't see you, hence why this guy just vanished from my screen like that. This system is a bit janky, but it's in place so that you can't third-person peek around objects and gather intel on someone that you can't see. I tried using the Q and E keys to peek around the corners of this booth, but alas, I had no idea where he went. I tried looping up around the mountain where he came from, but I couldn't spot him. Even watching all of this back in editing and slowing it down, I have no idea where this guy went. He simply vanished. With no information to go on, I decided to bounce before he got the drop on me. I spent a good chunk of the next day running back to the outpost and paid the armory a visit. I certainly didn't need 2 metal axes, so I decided to sell the one that I had crafted to free up a holster slot. Next, I paid the mechanic a visit. This car jack I found was actually far more valuable than I thought it was going to be, and since I didn't have a vehicle yet, there was really no sense of hanging on to it. But merchanting aside, I was still on a mission. I needed to find this mobile phone and smartphone battery, and it certainly wasn't going to happen on its own. I hit up the cannon site again on my way out of here, and was met with a nice surprise.
Oh. Oh, I got a car?
This was the first firearm that I had discovered so far, so I was pretty stoked. That being said, it was worthless without ammo. I had finally reached the town I was heading towards by late evening, and spent an ungodly amount of time running around rummaging through pretty much everything. I wasn't entirely sure where to find a smartphone, but I reasoned that my best bet was to look inside of campers, bedrooms, or trash bags. This ended up being a completely wrong assumption, by the way, but it's what I did at the time. There was nothing notable that happened outside of me crafting a metal shovel for reasons I'll explain later, and replacing my kilt with a pair of blue jeans that I found on the ground. Goodbye, sweet kilt. Your testicle cooling properties will be greatly missed. The next morning, I was right back to the grind. This town was massive, and if I was going to find a mobile phone, I needed to leave no stones unturned. There were quite a few zombies scattered throughout the city, but my character's movement speed combined with his ballista's power made pretty quick work of them. I was even starting to pull off some Robin Hood running shots, although it looked a bit janky because of the camera switches. I marked my territory in this restaurant's bathroom and had unknowingly found my way back to that military tent I looted before. I managed to find a tactical handgun holster inside of this one crate, but that was nothing compared to what I was about to find.
Ooh. Alright, I gotta find space for this thing. Ooh.
But my luck didn't even end there, as next to all of this was an MRE to balance out my food and a camo military helmet. Despite all of these awesome finds, though, I was still no closer to finding a mobile phone or battery than I was before. I decided to do a little bit of research online and came across this Reddit post that suggested they could be found more commonly in garages, wrecked vehicles, or by looting dead puppets. Basically, the three places that I wasn't checking. So after this discovery, I started seeking out garages, rummaging through every broken down vehicle, and made sure to search every puppet I killed to increase my chances. I had inadvertently wandered back to the same market bazaar I had found earlier, and well...
Another f***ing crossbow? What?
Unfortunately, I didn't have any space for a crossbow at this time, as it would have to give up either the car, the MK-18, or my ballista, which just wasn't going to happen. This situation right here could have been remedied with a better backpack, because I was basically just leaving money on the table. The next morning, I found a small axe while rummaging through these pallets, and I needed it in my life. These things made for an awesome travel tool to have on hand, as they didn't take up much inventory space. Before I could do much celebrating, though, a puppet fell on my head and scared the daylights out of me.
Holy hell.
I had to do a lot of inventory management to fit this axe and keep this portable stove I had found, but I eventually figured it out. This one spot in particular was overran with zombies. Good for target practice, bad for my heart.
Oh. A lot of zombies.
It did give me multiple chances to find a mobile phone, though, which ultimately paid off.
Mobile phone. Haha! Haha!
So now I just had to find a smartphone battery to go with it. Oddly enough, I found another mobile phone shortly after inside of this wrecked vehicle, but it didn't have a battery inside, so I was out of luck still.
Another mobile phone? Are you serious?
I came across a police station in this town, which are notorious for having loads of ammo and weapons. Upon looting one of the zombies inside, this happened.
Oh, hang on. Ha! Ha! Okay. Insert smartphone battery. Turn on. Haha!
With my new smartphone in hand, I was able to call up the general store manager to complete the quest. The next quest he offered was to explore 4 different World War II cannon sites across the map to gather intel. The reward was hefty, but I didn't think there was any way to complete a mission like this without a vehicle of some kind. Given that the mission had a 4-day time limit, I didn't think it made sense to even accept it until I had a better way of getting around. I managed to find a padlock inside of this desk, which I knew was really important for crafting locks to put on doors and storage boxes. Oddly enough, I managed to find an already fully crafted and force locked in this filing cabinet, which was an incredible find.
Ooh. Oh my god.
This was the highest tier of lock available, which meant that when I did finally build a base in the future, I could rest my head a little easier at night knowing that I had decent defense against lockpickers. Aside from these incredible finds, though, this police station was a goldmine for ammo. Granted, I didn't have many guns in my possession, or the magazines to go with them, but every bullet I found was straight dollar signs. I managed to find a screwdriver inside of this garage nearby, which was fortunate because there was a few locked cabinets in the police station that I wanted to loot. Before that, though, I managed to find a small toolbox and a grinding stone. Grinding stones were used to sharpen certain melee weapons to restore their durability. In my case, I used it to sharpen both of my axes. This box of bobby pins I found was going to come in clutch. They could be unpackaged and mass-crafted into makeshift lockpicks, which when combined with that small screwdriver would give me 2 attempts at unlocking these cabinets. Lockpicking in SCUM is a bit cumbersome. It's damaging in that it costs fame points if you fail, but rewarding if you manage to succeed and find decent loot. Now, I haven't picked a lock in SCUM in literal years, so my first attempt was definitely clunky, but I still managed to pull it off and find some ammo. The second attempt was a lot smoother, and I managed to find an M9 magazine. Day 11 was all about making it back to the outpost to cash in. This, of course, involved an excessive amount of running, but eventually I made it there by midday. There was another player standing here at the general store, adding to that looming threat of PvP always being a possibility. I sold all of my valuables to the general store and subsequently the armory. All of this ammo wasn't doing me much good at the moment, so why not cash in and run with it? I decided to sell my 2 firearms I found too, but I would come to regret this in the near future. With all of my newfound cash, I decided to splurge and buy a hiking backpack. Compared to my last backpack, this thing was massive. I bought a can of food to top off my hunger bar and gawked at the bicycles the mechanic had for sale, but refused to sell to me for lack of fame points.
I just want a bicycle.
With all of that done, I set forth back into the great unknown. I was heading north this time across the bridge to see what secrets it had in store for me. Little did I know just how stupid of a decision this was going to be. The town across the bridge was quite nice, until it wasn't. Out of nowhere, I heard this come through my speakers.
Defensive positions.
Now, I knew an audio clip like this had to be an NPC, but I honestly didn't even think that NPCs like this were in the game. It scared the daylights out of me and completely caught me off guard. I tried fighting it with my bow and arrow from behind this car, but every single arrow that I shot just hit the car for some reason. Then my character just could not shoot any more arrows. I was well fed, I had plenty of stamina, and I had many more arrows in my quiver, and yet every time I tried to draw my bow, he just refused. When I tried running away from the fight, things started going south real fast. The first bullet I got hit with severely hindered me to a crawl. I'm still trying to pull my bow back, mind you, but my character is still refusing. I tried to quickly equip my little axe so I could try to melee him, but apparently double-clicking on something in this game drops it instead of equipping it. I basically just walked in a straight line and allowed him to pincushion me many more times. I tried entering this building to lose him, but NPCs can apparently open doors, so he did, and he killed me.
Those mother bitches over there!
I just lost a lot of progress, but worst of all, I didn't even have a base yet, so I was forced to random spawn. I wasn't even close to where I died, which meant I had no hope of getting my gear back. To add salt to the wound, my foot clipped a tree on my descent and I fell straight to my death.
Alrighty then.
But you know, this got me thinking, why not just respawn a few times until I get a better spawn? So the next time down, I did it intentionally, only this time I didn't die for some reason. I fell a distance that I would have considered to be much greater and managed to live, so I had to manually self-delete. I later found out that this has negative repercussions on your character's intelligence levels, so I wouldn't recommend it. I did manage to get a better spawn this time though, so I just rolled with it. I landed at a nearby farmstead and was actually pretty lucky with pulling a Carbon Hunter rifle right out the gate. I spent a hefty amount of time crafting the usual starter stuff and snagged a few pieces of clothing before heading further down the road. I managed to come across another cannon site, and lucky for me, I actually managed to find some ammo for that rifle. No longer was this bunna stuck in the caveman times. I had an extremely loud, single-shot rifle that definitely wouldn't cause issues in the near future. Just before the day was over and I was about to reach the next town, I came across this silo with a locked door. This could only mean that it was claimed by another player, and if I could manage to scrape together a few lockpicks and screwdrivers, I just might be able to leave here a wealthy man. The next morning, I started clearing out the town and looting everything in sight, as one would do in a game like SCUM. I managed to find a box of screwdrivers inside of this wrecked vehicle, and I just so happened to have a screwdriver in my inventory, which meant that breaking into this player's locked silo is a go. Before attempting to lockpick it though, I had a fleeting idea that maybe I could place down an object to stand on and simply climb in the top door that was open. This plan didn't work though, because I wasn't allowed to place anything down, so it's back to the lockpicking plan. I had 3 chances to pick this lock, but alas, I failed every time. In retrospect, I should have removed my gloves, as this would have boosted my lockpicking abilities, but I didn't know it or think of it at the time. With my hopes and dreams shattered, I returned to town to keep looting. Fortunate too, because my efforts paid off in a huge and somewhat unexpected way. I managed to find a melee weapon holster in one house and this sweet new satchel in another, but the real score here was this adorable little yellow quad. Now it wasn't in full working order, but it wasn't far off. It was missing a tire, and it didn't have any juice in the battery, but I reasoned that I might potentially be able to solve both of these problems with a trip to the outpost. I wanted to finish looting more of the town, though, before I went on a wild goose chase, and I happened to spot this little bulletin board in town. Apparently you can pull missions from here and turn them in at the outpost upon completion. This first mission was to find a pair of sexy shorts, and it just so happens that I came across one in these houses by the docks. Luckily, my superior loot tracking memories led me back to them, and I completed the mission within a few minutes. I now had 2 solid reasons to travel to an outpost, but let's be honest, the quad was the real prize in my mind. I managed to find a new backpack in this town's school, but all roads led back to that yellow quad. I just couldn't stop thinking about it, and I decided there was no sense of prolonging the inevitable any longer. It took me nearly the entire day to run to the outpost from where I was. No, I'm not even joking, this was a really long run. In fact, by the time I reached the outpost, I was nearly dead from starvation and dehydration. The first thing I did was buy some canned food to combat this. Next, I renewed my classic credit card so I could access my bank account to start buying things. I did a bit of research online while I was running endlessly through that forest, and came to find out that I would need a car battery, a can of gasoline, a car jack, and an RIS wheel to get that ATV fully repaired. The car battery cost $1,200, the gas can was $300, and the car jack was $2,120. Unfortunately, the RIS wheel that I needed to purchase was locked behind a fame point wall that I was nowhere close to reaching. This meant that all of that money I just spent was going straight into fixing a 3-wheeled ATV that would remain that way for an undisclosed amount of time. Was this ideal? No. But any vehicle is better than no vehicle, so I reasoned it was still worth it. I spent a large majority of the day running back to town, and once I got there, the game had some nice surprises in store for me. This NPC with a crossbow about gave me a freaking heart attack, but at least she didn't have a gun. I really wasn't in the best shape to be engaging in a fight considering my stamina was so low from running, so I just created some distance and ignored her for now. The puppets in this town had other plans for me though. Like I said, my stamina was in pretty poor condition at this moment, so I decided to break out that carbon hunter rifle that I found. This was a mistake. Not only did I miss because I accidentally hip-fired, but the noise started drawing a lot of unwanted attention. Worst of all though, this is a single fire only, and my guy took an absurd amount of time to load each shot. I'm talking drunken, decrepit old grandfather on his deathbed amount of time. Like, I'm reasonably certain that I could have loaded this shell with my teeth before my character managed to load it with his hands. During all this fumbling around, I was getting absolutely pummeled by this zombie. This thing was freaking relentless, and it took some door trickery to actually get away from it. The situation was only getting more dire though, as more zombies started showing up, and I knew that all of this car stuff I was carrying was weighing me down too much. I decided to drop the car battery here on the street and made my way inside of a building. I thought I was safe, but that was far from true. That zombie hit completely interrupted my reload, and I knew I wasn't going to get it off in time to survive many more hits. I ran through the house and jumped from the balcony to get away, which technically did work, but I was in a world of hurt. My health was extremely low, and I had multiple cuts to deal with before I could even regenerate any health. When I had things somewhat patched up, I limped into a nearby house and camped out for a bit to let my health regen. It's a good thing I did this too, because there were plenty more zombies around that easily could have killed me if I kept pushing it. Once the coast was clear, I retrieved my car battery and got to work on installing it. Now, I had never modified vehicles in SCUM before, so I really didn't know what I was doing. I knew from researching online that the RIS battery was located in the back of the quad, but it took me a long time and a quick piss break to realize that it's located underneath of the back body. I actually had to get down into a prone position to properly access it, which is actually kinda cool, but also confusing for a first-time mechanic such as myself. With the battery installed, my 3-wheeled quad was officially operational, albeit really janky. It still needed some fuel before I could make it very far, which meant that I had to go find that gas can that I dropped while fighting those zombies. I drove it into a nearby garage for safekeeping, and upon walking down the sidewalk, I noticed that someone cut apart one of the zombies that I killed earlier. I didn't do it, and my only explanation that it was another player, or perhaps an NPC if they're capable of doing that. Either way, it put me on guard, and I had to be really careful. I eventually located the gas can lying in the bushes, and returned to my new quad to gas it up. Driving this thing was dangerous. Its steering was really unpredictable, what with the missing wheel and all, but there was no doubt that it was substantially faster than walking. My goal was to get it back to the outpost and hide it in a bush for now until I could find a way to get a 4th wheel. Along the way, I came across this tractor that was actually in really good shape, but I didn't have another battery or any more gasoline to go around, so I just decided to take one of its tires to sell at the outpost. Day 16 was one of the coolest and strangest days that I've ever had in gaming, but before I get into that, I had to stash this quad somewhere. I found this patch of bushes right next to the border of the outpost safe zone, and I figured it was as good a spot as any. I placed down a land claim flag blueprint where I stashed my quad to mark its location. I can see this giant blue circle, but enemies can't, making it the perfect way to hide my prized possession. I snagged my giant tire tractor from the quad's inventory and walked my naked ass down to the outpost. It was worth $240, so not a complete waste of time, but nothing extravagant. Veteran SCUM players are probably losing their minds right now by the block price of an item like this, but I digress. It was just enough money to buy some antibiotics, which I forgot to mention that I was in desperate need of. All of those wounds that I patched up back in town were infected, probably from all of the unsterilized bandages that I used. Anyways, the only way to actually cure the infection was through these meds, which the tractor tire just happened to pay for. After that whole debacle back in town, I decided that an extremely loud single-shot rifle really wasn't the best weapon to have on hand. Plus, it was worth a crisp $1,100, so I sold it and never looked back. Much to my surprise, another player came blazing into town on this sweet armored vehicle, which is where Day 16 got very interesting. Originally, I was hiding in a bush to avoid getting detected, but curiosity got the better of me, so I approached. Now, I won't lie, my intentions were nefarious at first. I thought that maybe I could snag some good shit from this guy's vehicle if it happened to not be locked, but alas, everything was locked up pretty good. He caught me in the act, so I played it off and complimented his sweet ride, to which he seemed to appreciate. Now, it turns out that this gentleman spoke Mandarin, and I just happened to have about 3 months' worth of Duolingo under my belt at this point in time, so I broke the ice the only way I knew how. I replied with the phrase, "wo shi wan han ba bao," which roughly translates to, "I like hamburgers." This seemed to either confuse or scare him, because he replied by asking, "Are you alone?" Anyways, I thought the conversation was pretty much over at this point, and I was just going about my business. I was still trying to figure out how I was going to get this quad tire when I didn't have enough fame points to buy the thing. But this guy kept following me, typing things in his mysterious language that Duolingo did not properly train me for. Keep in mind that I do not know how to read Pinyin, but my incredibly smart phone can easily translate languages on the fly just by pointing the fucking camera at the screen. Honestly, this technology is incredible, and none of us deserve this kind of power. Anyways, we struck up a conversation for like 25 minutes, just chatting back and forth in completely different languages, and each of us using our own methods of translating. One thing led to another, and this guy actually offered to buy me the quad tire I needed if I refunded him the money. He told me the tire was around $1,200, which is almost precisely the money I had from selling that Carbon Hunter rifle. Now, I'm not completely daft when it comes to things like this. You only have to get scammed on RuneScape once as a kid to understand that not everyone has the best of intentions, so I tried to safety net this as much as possible. I told him I would give him half of the money up front and the other half after I get the tire. Then, the most astonishing thing happened. He actually bought me the fucking tire. This dude went way out of his way to translate back and forth to a complete stranger for an astonishing amount of time, just to use his advanced reputation to purchase a tire for that stranger, who is completely naked, by the way. Devil Spirit 111, if by some odd chance you're watching this video, thank you so much for your kindness. It was a pleasure talking with you, and I wish you the best of luck on your scum adventures. Unfortunately, I had real-life obligations happening at this time, and I had to go, like, immediately. I felt like an ass because my thanks weren't nearly enough, but I quite literally had 1 foot out my front door as this thing was going on. It was probably for the best that I had to log out here, though. For all I knew, this could have been some very elaborate ruse to build my trust, only so he could follow me, kill me, and take my precious quad. I hate to think the worst of this gentleman, given how generous he was, but RuneScape scammers have mentally scarred me for life, so I trust no one. Not even my wife. She just wants my quad. The next time I logged in, it was pitch black outside, but my naked white ass didn't really care. I had a quad tire and a dream, baby. My precious quad was patiently waiting for me in that patch of bushes I left it in, giddy with excitement to be whole once more. I propped it up on a car jack and gently slid the new RAS tire into proper positioning to prepare my beautiful off-road vehicle. As I straddled its seat once more, gliding my naked, hairy, and somewhat sticky coin purse across its fine Italian leather, I knew that a bond had just been formed. Man and machine came together in a magnificent spectacle that one could only describe as pure, unadulterated euphoria, culminating in a sexual experience like I have never before don't tell my wife. The point is, I just found my wheels, baby. No longer would I be forced to walk to and fro. For now, I would ride to and fro. Eventually, I learned how to turn the headlights on, which was super useful being this dark outside. With my fuel tank running as low as it was, I knew I had to get to a gas station soon if I wanted to keep my baby on the road. After a bit of research online and a long night of travel, I eventually reached this gated complex that supposedly had a gas station attached to it. I parked my precious quad in a nearby bush like before, and began exploring the complex trying to find the gas station. To my surprise, the gas station was actually located down near the water, so I was going to have to make multiple trips with my little gas can to fill it all the way up. Oddly enough, I found that even larger gas can inside of the gas station, which I opted to use for future trips to save on time. With my quad fully gassed up and a new day approaching shortly, I decided that I should explore this town for loot while I was here. Little did I know just how poor of a decision this would end up being. I still needed to find a lock for my precious quad to keep it from being stolen, and given how many workshops were in this small area, I figured it wasn't too far-fetched of a dream to come true. What I didn't realize was that I wasn't alone in this small town, and no, I'm not talking about zombies. That, ladies and gentlemen, was another player. When I looked back over my shoulder to keep a visual, I took an arrow straight to somewhere. I'm not sure why it didn't do any damage to me, but I wasn't about to complain. I hightailed it for a short distance away so I could re-establish myself and hopefully get the drop on him, but he outplayed me. He circled around the opposite direction and tagged me before I ever even saw him. His first shot severely crippled me, and just like last time, I wasn't even able to draw my bow because I was in so much pain. He basically just circle-strafed me and pin-cushioned me to death. That's twice now that I've died in a relatively slow manner without returning any fire, all because I couldn't pull my bow back. Now, if you're wondering why I didn't include any live mic audio during any of this, it's because that my recording software decided to switch my default microphone on me without alerting me, so it captured none of my live reactions. Allow me to describe my emotions purely through internet memes and references.
My God, it's coming right for us!
Boom! And again. That's a lot of damage.
So there I was, plummeting towards the Earth at a questionable velocity on quite literally the opposite side of the map. There was no hope of getting back to my body in a reasonable amount of time, so I knew it was pointless to even try. My only hope was that he didn't see me drive up to that point of interest, and perhaps he wouldn't find my quad parked in the bush. After all, it was pitch black outside, and I camouflaged it pretty well, so there was still a glimmer of hope that I could be reunited with my precious quad once more. For now, though, the only option that I had was to rebuild. The sector that I landed in was a massive city full of hundreds of tall buildings and skyscrapers. While it was neat to see for the first time, I had a piss-poor experience here. I spent the entirety of day 18 trying to find decent loot, and honestly, I don't have any good clips to show for it. This place f***ing sucked. The only interesting thing that happened was when I was climbing down from the skyscraper and a bunch of zombies were waiting for me at the bottom. Somehow I managed to drop from the ladder and grab the bars behind me to pull myself up onto the second floor, but don't ask me how I did it because I have no idea. Just as the day was coming to an end and I was leaving the town, the game had one more surprise for me. A shot rang out and I got clipped from somewhere. Keep in mind that my screen is exceptionally darker compared to what you're seeing right now, so I had no idea where this shot came from. All I knew was that I had to get the hell out of there before whoever shot me decided to fire off another round, which they did, but luckily missed. Looking back on this in editing was the only way I could even tell what happened. If you watch very closely, you'll see that this bullet came from inside of this bush, so presumably this was another player laying inside of here waiting for me to approach. Just for comparison, here's what my screen looked like without the gamma boost enabled, so naturally I had no idea where this bullet came from. Fortunately, I did get away from this guy and was able to hide in this foliage to patch my wounds. I decided that I had enough player-related heart attacks for one day, so I decided to call it here for the night and log out. The first thing I did the next time I logged in was make a wooden spear. I was tired of never having a decent melee weapon to fall back on, and this banjo I found simply wasn't cutting it. After a long run through the woods in the dark of the night, I came across this small residential town. I needed loot of any kind at this point, so I figured that tearing this place apart was the best use of my time. I spent literally all day here, sifting through every single drawer and opening every trash bag in my pursuit of loot. All in all, this place was terrible. The only notable things I found were a battery for my headlamp and this skull backpack, which I decided to get creative with. I knew I was going to be building a base in the near future, but I simply didn't have the inventory space to carry around all the things I needed. So I figured, why not fill up the backpack and just carry it with me? Genius, I know, but that's why they pay me the big bucks. I've got a strategy for most things, even pissing on these floorboards. You just don't know it yet. Day 20 was an absolutely incredible day. I didn't have a whole lot to my name when I started, but all of that was about to change. I just had to put in some miles first.
Knees weak.
I came across this gas station along the road and immediately noticed something spectacular.
Hallelujah.
Leaning against the sidewall, I spotted a bicycle. Leaving here with this bike wasn't optional. It was mandatory. I needed to cover ground faster, and this was just the ticket I was looking for. The bike was being guarded by a self-delete puppet, though, which would explode if I got too close. I took my time and snuck around the opposite side to get a better shot.
Woo! I did it! Oh my god. Does it actually function? No shit. Oh, sick!
Finding this bike placed me in a bit of a predicament, though. I couldn't carry my school backpack while riding the bike, which meant that I needed to consolidate some resources. I decided to make an improvised hatchet and a metal sword to use up what I could. This took an embarrassing amount of time to pull off, but eventually I did it. This bike, however, was pretty sweet. It was slow to get started, and it didn't have any inventory space, but there was no doubt about it that this would be better for traveling between towns. It was way faster than running and used way less stamina, meaning I could travel much farther on much less energy. I rode all the way to the next town and decided to check out the tower of this church. I remember last time that I played that these towers usually had rifles or bows, and I wasn't disappointed.
Ooh, yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
Probably the most exciting thing about today was finding this police station, though. Police stations are incredible POIs that typically have higher tier loot, and this one was no exception. A majority of the containers in here had to be lockpicked, but all of those small towns and garages I've been hitting up along the way prepared me for just such the occasion. The first lock that I cracked rewarded me with a Block 21 pistol and a riot helmet, so already I was off to a great start. The second lock, though, that was where the real loot was at.
Oh. Sick.
I actually had some shotgun shells on me too, which meant for the first time in this playthrough, I had a good, fully functioning gun to defend myself with. I found a new sporn bag, a military helmet, boatloads of ammo and magazines, and even a flare gun at one point. I figured whatever I didn't use I could always sell, so I crammed as much valuable stuff as I could into my bags. It was getting really late in real life though, so it was time to call it a day. I parked my bike inside of this garage to hopefully keep it safe overnight, and prayed that it would be there the next time that I logged in. The next time that I logged in, my bike was gone.
Oh, god damn it.
But don't worry, it wouldn't have mattered anyways.
Oh my god! What the f***? What the fuck?
Can't get to school now.
Now, I'm assuming this was a player that killed me just based on the weapon versatility, how they approached me inside the garage, and how fast they took me out. I never heard or saw anything because I had literally just logged into the game, so he definitely had the upper hand on me. Now, when this all happened, I thought for sure that I was robbed of my kill. I felt like my crosshair was right on his forehead when he rounded the corner, but reviewing the clip and editing revealed that my iron sights were definitely off, and it cost me my life.
Negative money, god damn it.
So there I was again, plummeting towards the earth at a rapid rate, but at least this time I was in a sector that was close to an outpost. Once my feet hit the ground, I did all of the usual new spawn stuff, but I'll spare you the details. I found a small town alongside the road that I rummaged through, but I didn't find anything useful outside of a few pieces of clothing. I spent the rest of the day walking to another nearby town, where I decided to use the skins of some puppets that I made to make a new improvised backpack. It was substantially larger than my little courier pack, and would quickly become my new go-to with respawns like this, provided I could find all of the resources. As soon as I entered the new town, I found a locked door on the silo, meaning it had to be owned by an enemy player.
Ooh. Okay.
Without a screwdriver or bobby pins, though, I had no way of breaking into it. Plus, the game had other plans in store for me.
Oh god! Oh god! What the f***? Get away! Get away! God damn it, stop it! God, what is with the NPCs?
So yeah, this was about the dumbest way I could have died. This particular stairwell was inside and had no additional entrances or exits. I was basically just a fish in a barrel for this NPC to blast away at me indefinitely, and there was literally nothing I could do about it. So there I was, parachuting down into the winter zone, an area that I honestly hoped would never see in this playthrough.
D1!
The cold weather here means that I have to have extra gear on to stay warm, which means that I can't carry as much loot. Plus, all of the POIs on this side of the map seem to be spread out with lots of mountainous areas in between, meaning traveling from A to B was much harder. Despite being disgruntled towards my current situation, I knew there was no way forward but to power through it. I landed on top of a police station, but once I heard all of the commotion below me, I knew that I couldn't tackle it just yet. I looted this town for a long time, but honestly didn't find anything of notable value. By the end of the day, I had a skull backpack, a metal axe, and a dream. First thing in the morning, I made a 35-pound bow and an improvised quiver out of zombie skins. After a bit more looting in this place, I was feeling pretty confident tackling this police station. There were loads of zombies all over this place, but the metal axe and bow made pretty quick work of them. That is, until these two zombies bum rushed me and trapped me in a corner, which forced me into a first-person camera for some reason. I honestly have no idea what happened here, but I somehow managed to get out of it. Unfortunately, I didn't have any way of picking the locks inside of this police station, and most of the good loot was locked inside of the cabinets. So outside of some stray ammo here and there, the loot was pretty lackluster. One thing I was able to pull off was crafting an improvised bulletproof vest. I really didn't want to run into the same situation that landed me in this frozen hellhole, so I figured this would be a great thing to be wearing. What I didn't realize was that this thing weighed 10 kilograms, and basically prevented me from running anywhere. I wore it for a day out of stubbornness, but quickly realized that I didn't like it. I spent the rest of the day running south to the next POI, which just so happened to be a military base of some kind. It was getting late in real life though, and I had to get off for the night. I decided to plop down this bedroll that I found so my character's exhaustion levels would be reset the next time that I logged in. It was time to explore this military base, although it wasn't exactly what I expected. Usually these places are heavily guarded with sentries or hostile NPCs, but this one didn't seem to have any of that. I still approached it super cautiously so I didn't get mowed down, but I quickly found out that I had nothing to worry about. I walked up the stairs to this first structure and discovered that the door was locked. So I walked over to the next building and discovered that the door was locked. So then I walked to the next building, which was labeled Zelena Mela.
Impossible.
I knew something was up right away because I could hear what sounded like club music coming from underground, but I was still super careful with how I opened doors and rounded corners. This hallway was pretty scary, what with all of the red LED frames running down the length of it, and it took some courage to risk going through the first one. As it turns out, not everything is a deadly laser bent on killing me.
Sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
Honestly, I would have expected sharks with freaking laser beams attached to their heads over what I actually found. A nightclub, complete with rave lights, bumping music, a disco ball, multiple bars, you name it. It was a bit surreal walking around this place considering there was no one else here. No players, no NPCs, no text, no directions, just a nightclub. I'm assuming this whole complex was made for SCUM communities to get together and have little parties, especially on community servers, but I'm not entirely sure. It was devoid of all loot minus some bottles of water and this box of cream. And let's be honest, if I wanted to loot a box of cream, I would just call your mom. Coming to this place wasn't a complete waste of time though. On top of this metal tower, I managed to find a military compass, which helped a lot with getting around this map. Basically, anytime I went into focus mode now, I could see which direction I was heading towards. Anyways, my mission for the rest of the day was to make it to the outpost in C2. I've never been there before, but I wasn't terribly far off from it, and I needed money in the worst way. After a lot of walking, I finally reached this long wooden bridge expanding across the lake leading into the outpost. I was beginning to think that I'd never see one of these places again, so I was happy to be here. The first thing I did was head into the armory and sell all of that ammo that I found. Then I went over to the medical vendor and sold some tablets I found inside of a pharmacy. It turns out that painkillers were worth a lot, so I kept a mental note of that for the future. Lastly, I went to the general store and sold my 2 toolboxes and my bedroll. I wanted to keep those toolboxes for building a base, but I had no idea when that was going to happen, and I didn't want to keep lugging them around. Next, I needed to solve my hunger problem. I had watched a few videos online about cooking some basic food on a campfire, and I wanted to give it a go. I bought some black pepper and sea salt from the vendor, and also a meat stick just in case I messed something up and still needed sustenance. Before I stepped away from the vendor, though, I decided to check his quest book. Oddly enough, he was looking for a grinding stone, which I just so happened to have in my backpack. This was probably the easiest $700 that I've ever earned in this game, so I took it. After that, I went over to the saloon, which was apparently the only place I could buy raw meat in this outpost. Why on earth the saloon is selling raw meat, I have no idea, but it certainly begs the question of what happens to all of the drunks that end up disappearing from here. Anyways, I opted to buy some raw doe meat, or at least I think it was raw doe meat, since it was the cheapest option available. Before I left the outpost, I had one final bit of business that I had to take care of. That player that killed me took my cards and drained my accounts, so it was time to cancel them and open up some new ones. I kept my original pin code of 5 just so I didn't mess myself up, but I went one step further this time to increase my account security. I intentionally input my pin code incorrectly 2 times, meaning that if someone did happen to kill me and take my card, they only had one chance to get it right. Before leaving the outpost, I decided to sell that improvised bulletproof vest that I made to the armory. Was this a mistake? Probably, but it was glorious to be able to run again. My next destination was this giant dam to the west of me. I had no idea what was there, but I wanted to check it out. Before traveling there, though, it was time to get some real food in me. I wanted to try my hand at cooking for the first time, so I made this improvised fire and started slapping together a recipe. Cooking in Scum is quite interesting. You basically have to add each ingredient of a recipe into the cooking menu, then remove the food at just the right time to get a good cooking score. The better the score is, the better the food is. In this case, I wasn't cooking anything too special, but I managed to get a perfect score every time. Eventually, I had 1 meat skewer digesting and 3 more in my backpack, which I figured would be plenty of food for traveling around. Speaking of which, the dam was terrible. The only interesting thing in this place was the zombie taking a shit in the bathroom, but outside of that, it was a complete waste of time coming here. I decided to head southwest with the aid of my new military compass. I wanted to get out of this winter zone and into some brighter pastures, and the only way of doing that was to start running. Along the way, I managed to find this treehouse in the woods, and much to my surprise, it had a double-barrel shotgun sitting on the ledge. Further south, I found a locked cabin, which I initially thought was a player's base, but after peeking through the window a few times, I wasn't so sure. There didn't seem to be any crafted furniture or storage boxes inside, plus I didn't have anything to pick the lock anyways, so I just moved on. After some treacherous billy-goating, I was finally starting to see the shift between winter zone and forest. By the time I reached the next town, it was time to pack it in for the night. I made sure to rest my character on this chair so it would reduce its exhaustion levels overnight.
Hey, you there! Did you know that statistically speaking, there's a 98% chance that you're not subscribed to this channel? You've just watched 25 days of this idiot's challenge, and you still haven't subscribed? What are you waiting for? It's completely free and keeps you up to date on all of Bunna's latest videos. While you're at it, hit that like button and leave a comment down below letting him know what you think of the journey so far. All of these things count as viewer engagement and help promote the channel to new viewers here on YouTube. Anyways, back to the moron.
The next morning started off with a bang. Literally.
Whoa! Who the f***? Another NPC shooting at me? I mean, what the hell? Okay. Huh? Ah! Oh my god. Off. Off. Get. That's what I'm talking about.
Hell yeah,
Ha-ha.
Bunna.
Got you. Now I'm bleeding a lot. Probably should take care of that.
So for once, I actually came out on top against this NPC with a gun. Granted, all he had was an improvised pistol, but a win is a win, even if I'm bleeding all over the garage floor. I spent a long time running around this town looking for stuff, but alas, it was all pretty worthless. The only exceptions were these patches of vegetables that I came across, which I reasoned I could make vegetable skewers out of, and this large screwdriver that I could use for lockpicking. It was time to head on to brighter shores, though, but along the way, I figured I would try to find some mushrooms for my skewers. They are unfortunately required to make a vegetable skewer, so I really didn't have any choice if I wanted to put these veggies to good use. The problem was, every mushroom that I found was poisonous, either indicated by their description or by the red text in their nutritional stats. Anyways, I was pretty close to this POI on my map, so I figured I would head southeast to check it out. As I lay on the forest floor from the exhaustion of running with so many f***ing cucumbers in my backpack, I knew that my decision to come here was going to be a good one. Gazing between my knees just up the hill, I could spot the tower of what appeared to be a castle, and I was stoked to get up there and check it out. The forced perspective of my character's view probably made it look like I had a giant penis, and I wish I would have switched into first-person mode for that experience. There's no two ways about it, though, this place was awesome. It was a moderately sized castle full of boatloads of crates and boxes to loot. There were ladders to climb, walls to run across, towers to run through. It was a castle. My first major discovery came from this small wooden crate laying on the ground.
Oh my god, I found a polished helmet.
Oh my god.
I found a helmet.
You look so handsome.
Thanks.
But the excitement of exploring this place was short-lived, as the server was about to go down. As soon as the server reset, I was back online. I was pretty stoked to explore the rest of this castle, and believe me when I say I left no stone unturned. There were hundreds of boxes and pallets scattered everywhere through this place, and I searched every single one of them. I just knew there had to be special items here to find, and after a long and meticulous search, I struck gold.
Oh, what a find. Huh. Trish.
What?
Medieval. Merlin. Medieval sword. Oh. Oh my god. I want it.
My wife and Corgi were just as stoked as I was. This thing was fucking sick. Not only did it make for a great melee weapon, but I had a sneaking suspicion it was worth a good amount of money as well. If you think my search was a bit frantic before, you have no idea. Now that I knew there were special items to find here, I doubled down on the search and spent nearly the entire day rummaging around. In the end, I found a Kodiak bow, a sporn bag, another sword, and another helmet. I got to test the sword out on this zombie as I was leaving the castle, and this thing was by far the best weapon that I had used so far. It hit hard, fast, and didn't seem to use as much stamina as other weapons I had used. I managed to find some non-poisonous mushrooms as I was walking through the forest, but this was honestly the last thing on my mind. For hiding up in the woods was a cabin, and beside that cabin sat a tractor. A player's tractor.
This is a player's tractor. Oh!
Now the cabin wasn't locked, so I'm assuming that this player just parked the tractor here and probably logged out inside the cabin for the night. Either way, I wasn't leaving here without trying to lockpick this thing. I started mass crafting lockpicks out of bobby pins and gave it my best attempt. It was an enforced locked, which is the hardest possible lock to pick. I call complete bullshit on a few of these attempts though. I mean, the thing was straight horizontal.
Oh, come on, it was so close! What? Oh, so close.
But close only counts in horse grenades and hand shoes.
Wait a minute.
I had fully depleted my supply of screwdrivers and lockpicks, so I was left with no option but to leave it for now. My goal was to reach the next large town to the southeast of me before the day's end, and by the following morning I had done just that. I decided to make a campfire just outside of town to craft some vegetable skewers and clean up my inventory. Unbeknownst to me, most of the vegetables I had been picking can't even be used to make vegetable skewers, so they were just taking up inventory space for no reason. I did eventually find a combination of ingredients that worked, but I only managed to achieve an excellently cooked rating for some reason. Either way, it was
fucking delicious.
This next town didn't really strike me as anything special at first. I was just killing zombies, looting things, marking my territory, you know, the usual stuff. Then I decided to check out the police station when all hell broke loose.
Oh.
Take cover!
Oh my god.
One with all
Are you fucking serious? Oh, come on! Oh.
So despite how fast I reacted to that situation and how much distance I created between myself and the NPC, he nailed me for nearly all of my health in a single bullet and instantly crippled me. I'll say it, the human NPCs in SCUM are bullshit. They are way too powerful and way too aggressive for a noob player like myself. The only saving grace here was that I had just enough money in my bank to respawn in the sector. I was able to get most of the way back there by parachuting and then ran like a madman through the woods back to town. I reached the gas station in record time, but the NPCs weren't done with me yet. I juked the first one by running behind some buildings in the back of the town, but then I found myself in a head-to-head combat scenario with this crossbow guy. I was basically forced to stab him to death with my wooden spear. If I tried to run, he'd crossbow bolt me and probably kill me, but if I stayed in melee range, I had a fighting chance. After a ridiculous amount of stabs, I actually managed to pull it off.
Oh, got him. Okay.
I thought it would be safe to grab my stuff at this point, but another NPC came rolling up on me. I pulled out my shotgun and fired a shot directly into her chest, but it somehow missed. I'm not entirely sure what happened here, but that was the only shell I had, so I was kind of screwed. That is, until this zombie bum rushed her and saved the day.
Oh, zombie's getting her.
They ended up killing each other, which enabled me to get back in there and grab all of my stuff. But the fight wasn't over yet. I could hear another NPC running around inside of the building next to me, but I couldn't catch a visual. I decided to loop up around on higher ground to see if I could spot him, but he spotted me first.
Oh.
It's a good thing that I
have the high ground!
I was catching glimpses of him here and there, but I didn't think that it made sense to go bow versus gun much longer. I decided to be a bit ballsy and sneak into the building that he was hiding in. Even though I totally landed these 3 bow shots on him, none of them hit for some reason, and I gave my position away. I was forced to resort to some more barbaric tactics.
Get sorted. Get sorted. That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
This guy dropped a Kruger pistol and some ammo to go with it, although no magazine, which meant that it was only a single shot. I knew that there was at least one more NPC inside of that police station, and I wanted this fight to be over.
Oh, got the shotgun.
Is it another NPC.
Yeah, got a shotgun though. Get sorted. Get sorted. Please don't shoot. Please don't shoot. Please don't. Oh my god, I got him. Woo! Oh, get fucked.
I was and still am absolutely shocked that my tactics worked out here, but as I've always said, don't ever fuck a gift horse in the mouth. This guy dropped a sick shotgun, but more importantly, freed me up to loot the rest of the police station. The most notable things here were this M9 pistol, magazines for different guns, and boatloads of ammo. Yup, everything was looking up for little old Bunna, until it wasn't.
Oh, you've gotta be shitting. Oh, come on. What?
There's not really much to talk about here. I got caught in the open versus another bullshit NPC that dealt ridiculous damage, rarely missed, and for some reason had infinite ammo. There go my swords and my sweet helmets. But all was not lost, for the game was about to put me in a reasonably good position.
Okay. Okay, you know what? I'm alright with this.
I landed directly next to a military base, only this time it was guarded by sentries. I stepped inside to scope things out, but there was a zombie close by and I had nothing to fight it with, so I decided to bounce. The sentry caught me on the way out, but I threw my hands up and ran like a bitch. Now I don't know about you guys, but the loss of my precious yellow quad was still haunting me, especially since I didn't actually know its fate. It's one thing if I saw that player drive it away, but for all I knew, it was still safely stashed in that bush just waiting on me. This was the closest I had been to it since I died, and I wasn't about to squander the chance of closure. I still had a lot of ground to cover, but I was adamant in my pursuit. On the way through the woods, I came across an old player's campsite, complete with a few surprises in a metal box.
Ooh. Oh my god.
I grabbed as much as I could carry and kept heading south to the next POI. It was an insanely long walk, but eventually I reached this fenced-in complex full of building materials and scrap vehicles. At first I thought that it might be another guarded military base, so I was pretty cautious about where I poked my head in, but soon I found out that it was relatively safe. Outside of the occasional zombie, of course. Then I stumbled across something kind of awesome. There was this old tractor sitting here that was in really good shape. It was only missing a battery and one tire. Now, I would be an absolute fool to fix up another vehicle without first putting a lock on it, so I reasoned that fixing this thing up was just a pipe dream. But then I found a lock. But I would still need a car jack to actually fix this thing, which was never going to happen. Then I found a car jack. Okay, so actually, all I needed to drive this thing was a car battery. My hopes went up momentarily when I saw this cruiser sitting here, but it didn't have a battery either, and I would later find out that a cruiser's battery was different than a car battery anyways, so it wouldn't have mattered. I absolutely tore this place apart looking for a car battery. I checked every single vehicle, shelf, man, woman, mailbox.
Warehouse, farmhouse, hen house, outhouse, or doghouse.
And even after all of that, I came up short. I decided to use two of the locks that I found to at least lock the tractor and its little basket, but my hopes of driving it out of here had come to a giant stop. There was definitely no car batteries here, and my current food situation was basically forcing me to other POIs. My hopes returned for a split second when I spotted this Rager truck at a gas station, but it too did not have a battery. I had to take care of this self-delete zombie before I could loot the place, but it was well worth the stop. I found a cooking pot of clean water sitting on the pavement, which solved the dehydration problem. Then I discovered something that would solve my limited inventory space.
Oh my god. Yes. Oh.
Lastly, I discovered a meat snack in the back room, which would be just enough sustenance to get me to the outpost. The game was finally throwing me a bone, and not the kind that you would get in prison. I needed to capitalize on every single small victory that I could get, and this was no exception. Without wasting any more time, I ran for the outpost like a madman and made it there just as the day was coming to an end. I sold my pistol and ammo to the armory and used the money to buy ingredients for meat skewers. I checked the price of a car battery while I was here, but they were unfortunately well out of my price range. That tractor was going to have to wait for now. I spent the rest of the day cooking meat skewers in the saloon to get my food stats in order. The next morning, I was on a mission. It was absolutely eating me up inside not knowing the fate of my precious quad, and this was the closest that I had been to it since getting jumped by that player. I told myself that today would be spent walking to that POI to determine once and for all if it was gone for good. The journey was extremely long, despite how short of a distance it might seem on the map, but once I saw the metal gate and the crumpled down wall again, I knew that I had made the right decision. I approached the bush that I had parked my quad in for safekeeping, but alas, it was gone. I was sad, but it was honestly to be expected. It had been well over a week between the time that I lost the quad and the time that I made this return trip, so I didn't have much of any hope of it actually being here. But hey, I already made the long journey, so I figured why not loot the place. I managed to find a small axe in this wooden box, and after a bit of finagling, I was able to scrape together resources to craft a metal sword. It's not medieval, but it's the next best thing. The real star of the show here were all of the cans of fish I was finding. I was looting tons of canned tuna and sardines, which were an excellent source of food since they didn't really expire. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted something extraordinary. A beautiful red tractor, just chilling in the parking lot. As far as I could tell, this thing was in near perfect condition. It was only missing one front tire and an alternator, both of which technically weren't necessary to drive this thing out of here. I even had an iron lock in my inventory to secure it for now while I finished looting the place. I didn't have money to buy gasoline, but I reasoned that I probably had enough to at least get this thing out of here when the time came. That is, until something unexpected happened. Just as I was finishing up with my trip, another player showed up, only this time he had a gun.
Oh god. Are you shitting me? Oh, I'm so f***ed. Oh, I'm so f***ed. Oh, come on, come on, come up! Come up! Oh, shit! Come on!
Looking back at this footage and editing, I'm confident here that there was nothing more I could have done. This guy had way better gear than I did, and I was basically forced to disengage in any kind of a ranged battle since he had a gun. I reasoned that getting him into melee range was the only chance that I had, and despite my onslaught of melee attacks, he managed to kill me with one stab of his bayonet, followed by a single bullet. That was the second time that I managed to die in this same POI to another player. So there I was, plummeting towards the earth at a rapid rate, this time in the southwest of the map. All in all, this wasn't a bad place to be. The weather was nice, the towns were fairly close together, and the outpost wasn't too far for trading. You guys know exactly how this early game loop goes by now, so I'll spare you the details. I did manage to come across another tractor here, but this one was in considerably worse shape than the one I just lost. It was basically rubbing salt in a wound every time I looked at it though, so I moved on to the next town. I had been in this town before, and knew that the loot here was pretty good, especially if I could break into this police station. Just when I thought it was going to be easy though, an NPC with a gun rounded the corner. Now, I don't want to brag or anything, but I handled this fight like an absolute boss. I quick-fired 3 arrows into his chest without taking any damage, securing the police station to loot at my leisure. He dropped an improvised pistol, but after inspecting it, I realized it was in really poor condition, so I decided to leave it. As always, police stations are great places to loot. I was finding boatloads of ammo, and once I got my hands on some screwdrivers and fastened some lockpicks, I was starting to uncover the real loot inside of these cabinets.
Okay. Now we're in business.
The shotgun was an incredible find, but I don't want to overshadow the riot helmet, stab-proof vest, and the pistol I found here as well. I didn't have a magazine or ammo for the pistol though, so it was basically just going to be an outpost cell. With the server restarting and this place completely drained, I was forced to log off here for the night. I logged back in as soon as the server came back online and resumed my looting spree. Most of the places here were already ransacked, but this pharmacy was proving fruitful with all the meds I was finding. Plus, I swallowed a whole lot of cream. Just like your mom. Boom! Inventory space was becoming a real hassle though, so I broke down and made an animal skin quiver from this zombie's hide. The extra few inventory slots allowed me to hit up a couple remaining cabinets in this police station, which netted me another pistol and a bunch of shotgun ammo. With my inventory completely full and thousands of dollars on the line, I spent the remainder of the day running to the outpost. I sold most of the guns and ammo I found for $1,800, the meds for $800, and a pickaxe for $230. Next, I renewed my credit card and input my PIN incorrectly 2 times for the added security. I bought all of the stuff I needed to cook some meat skewers and got an improvised fire down just before the day was ending. I had all of my meat skewers cooked by the following morning and was off to find the next town. I came across this lighthouse along the way, and while most of the loot here was pretty poor, I did manage to find this silver lock. I would be putting this thing to use in a little bit. I reached the next town by midday and spent a few minutes scraping together all of the resources I needed to make another improvised backpack. I also managed to find a Kruger magazine inside of this wardrobe and made a primitive compass to help me navigate a little bit smoother. It wasn't a military compass, but it got the job done. Just before the day was coming to an end, I managed to find a scorpion bow laying on the ground. My goal for today was to loot this police station, and learn how to climb walls. I needed more screwdrivers and lockpicks though, so I spent some time hitting up all of the local garages until I had enough to clear it. As always, the loot was quite awesome. I found a Serpent 357, an M1 911, magazines, a bayonet, another silver lock, and an ASVAL flashlight. Combined with some meds that I found in this town's pharmacy, I knew that I had quite the haul on my hands, so I decided to head back to the outpost. All of the firearms and ammo sold for nearly $2,000, and the meds snagged me just over $1,000, bringing my total bank account to over $5 grand. The next morning, I accepted this quest to find some chocolate candies because why not, and I started heading back to town that I came from to loot it again. This was the next day in real life, so I knew that all of the loot would have respawned at this point. Along the way, I decided to act on an idea that had been brewing in the back of my mind for quite some time. These 2 silver locks were burning a hole in my pocket, and I figured why not use them? Chances are I was going to die with them anyways, so I might as well lock down something that I could somewhat call a base. I chose this little silo for now since it only had one entrance and I could put multiple locks on it. My plan was to put down a storage box in here later so that I could stash my loot as I found it and reduce my trips back and forth to the outpost. Once I reached town, I ransacked the pharmacy since it tended to have some of the best loot, outside of the police station. In order to loot that, I was going to need more screwdrivers and lockpicks. Believe me when I say that I was thorough in my search. I rummaged through every single garage, vehicle, schoolhouse, marketplace, bar, and restaurant that I came across, until I took a bullet to the knee. An NPC was pursuing me, but this time I was ready. I camped the staircase, and the moment that I saw a head pop up, I took the shot. Just when I thought the coast was clear, though, another NPC showed up, so I took him out in a similar fashion. Unfortunately, they didn't drop anything worthwhile, and believe me when I say that I performed a thorough cavity search. I made a new improvised backpack out of their skin to help me carry things, and then stumbled across a silo that another player had locked down. I wasn't going to waste my screwdrivers on it, but it was good to know that this place was somewhat active and I would have to keep my wits about me. The next morning, I decided to climb into this church tower and made a pretty awesome discovery.
Oh, sick.
I was pretty excited to find this compound bow at first, but after tinkering with it for a few moments, I decided it wasn't going to be for me. I didn't like how long it took to draw, and the amount of zoom it had when aiming would make it tough to rapid-fire shots against zombies. With the few screwdrivers and lockpicks that I had found, I decided to finally hit up the police station again, where I found some more ammo and another silver lock. The much bigger find, though, was this Blackhawk crossbow. I didn't have any more open holster slots to carry it, so I decided to hide my second backpack inside of this cubby while I ran it back to the silo. It was becoming more and more clear that I needed a storage box, and what better time to do that than now? I placed down the blueprint to see what I needed. The planks and rope I could always make on the fly, but the bolts were the hang-up. I went back to town to pick up my backpack and got to work looting cars to find the bolts I needed. That's when I stumbled across another epic find. This screwdriver here had a lot of uses, and would last me through quite a few police stations, or a player-locked building if I chose to break into it. While I wanted to finish looting the police station, I didn't want to keep getting sidetracked, so I went back to my base to finish that storage box. I had to make a stone axe to cut down a tree, then I used the vicinity drop trick to bring all of the logs into my silo base. It took a really long time to do all of this, but the results speak for themselves. I had a convenient place to throw all of the crap that I was looting, which would make trips to the outpost much more efficient. The next morning, I built a campfire inside of my base and decided to hit up that police station one more time with my new screwdriver. I managed to pull some more ammo, a pistol, and a couple magazines out of here, with the most notable thing being this massive RPK mag. I would find out later that it wasn't worth very much, though. This storage box was filling up pretty quickly, and I knew that I had to make a trip to the outpost to liquidate some things. But first things first, I wanted to get a bed down. Having a bed inside of here would not only let me rest overnight, but would also place a little H on my map so I never forgot what my home was. Technically, I could also spawn on this bed if I had the gold to do it, but alas, I was a broke bitch and couldn't even afford it if I needed it. I loaded up my second backpack with all of the guns and ammo I could, and started the long trek towards the outpost. The 2 bows I found were worth almost $1,000, and the rest of the guns and ammo I found were worth about $1,300. As I was liquidating all of this stuff, I heard the sound of an airplane flying into the outpost. I knew that airplanes existed in the game, but I had never seen one before and wanted to sneak a peek. Pretty sweet, although far out of my reach. These two dudes were absolute chads. They tried talking to me in their native tongue, which I'm assuming was Japanese, but I didn't understand a single word of it. I was just trying to buy stuff for food and even splurge for a hiking backpack, but these guys were trying their best to communicate with me in every way possible. I once again responded with my ridiculous statement in Mandarin, knowing with reasonable certainty that they weren't even speaking it.
我喜欢汉堡包.
Hello? Where are you from?
One of them asked me where I was from, to which I responded America, to which he responded,
Oh, yes.
Then began to urinate on me. It was at this moment that I began to speculate that they probably didn't like Americans. Anyways, I sold the rest of my meds, deposited my money, and crashed on a hospital bed for the night, knowing full well that I probably wasn't going to be back online for about a week. The next time that I logged in, it was pitch black outside, but my exhaustion was completely gone from sleeping in that hospital bed. I was almost back to my silo base when I happened to spot this Volkswagen sitting in the bushes nearby. It was missing a lot of components, but the fact that it was locked and deliberately sitting inside of this bush told me that it was another player's vehicle. Surprisingly, my silo base was still untouched, although the components on the inside had deteriorated a lot since I was last here. I had to completely remake my campfire, and the improvised bed that I placed down was literally on its last thread. Given that the bed wasn't doing a whole lot for me at this point, I just decided to skip repairing it or crafting a new one for now. If you hadn't noticed up until this point, I have been carrying a giant grill grid in my hand for a reason. I wanted to try my hand at grilling some meat instead of skewering it. The process for cooking it remains relatively the same, except the grill grid has to be placed over a fire and a pan can be placed on that grid, although for this particular recipe, I'm not confident that you even need the pan. I'm not even entirely sure that this is a better cooking recipe than the skewers, but since it required additional components, I figured that it probably was. After all of that was done cooking, I was feeling a bit mischievous. I wanted to investigate this Volkswagen to see if it was something that I could steal, but the moment that I saw it had an enforced lock on it, I knew I was out of luck. I simply didn't have the screwdrivers or the fame points to pick it, so I left it for now and headed into town. This is where things went south. I spotted an NPC heading my way, so I braced myself behind this broken down vehicle. Now normally I would include my live mic audio here, but my extremely loud stepdaughter and her friend were playing with the family corgi directly next to my computer chair, and I wouldn't want to subject you to that noise that I had to endure. Just understand that it's the primary reason that the following events played out like they did. Now just to quickly recap, I couldn't hear a goddamn thing at the time that this was all happening. I only spotted one NPC heading my way, and since he only had a crossbow, I reasoned that I could probably take him down with the bow to avoid drawing attention. As it turns out, there were two more NPCs behind me that I didn't even realize, both of which had guns. Once I started getting shot, I wasn't able to draw my bow, or switch to my shotgun for some reason, and, well, the rest is history. But did I give up? No. I cracked open a can of Guinness and respawned in the sector. So there I was once more, plummeting towards the earth at a rapid rate. Luckily I spawned close to my silo, and I was able to reach it just before the end of the day. With nothing but a wooden bow, a wooden spear, and a dream, I hastily ran back to where I died so I could pick up my items. I thought the coast was clear at first, but then I spotted an NPC with a shotgun heading my way. Then the crossbow guy showed up, so now I was dodging the shotgun guy while also dodging the crossbow bolts and returning fire with my bow. Then I heard a few assault rifle bullets sound off, which meant that the third NPC was right behind me. I thought I was juking pretty good until I took a shotgun shell to the knee.
Oh my god.
I limped my way into the building, but he was basically playing peekaboo with me, and it was clear that he wasn't letting me out of here. Since I was in so much pain, I couldn't pull my bow back anymore, which left me with only one option. Attack head-on with my spear and hope for the best.
Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Alrighty then.
So there I was, plummeting towards the earth at a rapid rate. This time significantly further away than before. I spent most of the day running and swimming back to town, but once I got there, I realized I didn't have anything to fight with. I spent a few moments frantically running around looking for a weapon, but all I managed to find was a hiking backpack. Granted, it's still an awesome find, but not really what I needed at the time. I ultimately came up short on finding a weapon, but after a thorough scoping of the area, I was pretty confident that the NPCs were gone. Perhaps they despawned, or perhaps zombies took them out, but either way, I didn't really care. I was able to grab all of my stuff laying on the ground and ran back to base. Aside from my ego being thoroughly damaged from the whole ordeal, I didn't really lose anything outside of some fame points. I spent the rest of the night repairing all of my gear that was full of shotgun pellets and crossbow bolts. The next time that I logged in, it was pitch black outside and I could barely see a thing. I learned my lesson from last time, though, and approached this broken down vehicle with extreme caution, and it was a really good thing that I did.
Oh my god. Jesus Christ!
Keep in mind, what you're seeing on screen right now is substantially brighter than what I was seeing in real time, so it was actually a bit of a challenge to take these NPCs out. Fortunately, I came out on top this time, but I had to spend a few minutes patching things up before I moved on. My main mission for today was to find some rubber bands and needles to craft a basic lock security for my door, but I'll explain that more later. I was also keeping an eye out for any vehicles that I could fix up, and ultimately I had some success on both fronts. I managed to find a car jack inside of this garage and stumbled across this tractor in town that was in relatively good condition. It needed 2 front tires and a seat, but I knew there were some farms nearby that could potentially have these things. Then I managed to stumble across something spectacular. Sitting in the middle of this street, just out in the open, was a portable fridge. At first I thought it was a trap. I mean, who leaves a perfectly good fridge just sitting in the street? Anyways, I approached it with caution, and after seeing that the situation was safe, I picked it up. Guys, I found a fridge! Holy shit! It was in pretty rough shape when I first found it, but I was able to fix it up in a nearby garage with a toolkit. Despite how heavy this fucking refrigerator was, I still wasn't done looting this place. I really wanted to find some tractor parts to fix this thing up, but alas, I come up empty-handed and had to head back home. Now, technically speaking, this portable refrigerator did absolutely nothing in terms of preserving my food since it didn't have any power yet, but it was a nice way of keeping things organized. I had managed to piece together a mobile phone and battery from all of my incessant looting, and I decided to browse some of the missions available. This first quest was to find a small toolbox, and I just happened to know exactly where I left one that was only 1 out of 50 health remaining, so I figured why not go grab it. I ran back into town, fought off this zombie that was guarding it, and picked it up off the floor, only to realize that the mission I accepted had to be turned in the outpost in A0. This was an extremely far distance away from me, and since I didn't have any kind of a vehicle to get there in a reasonable time frame, I opted to just delete the quest. It wasn't all for nothing, though, because I found some entertainment out of this zombie glitching in the garage door.
Look at this.
What the fuck? Is it a zombie or something?
Yeah, I killed it. It's stuck in the door.
Huh.
I am a child. Anyways, that was about all that happened outside of another NPC scaring the daylights out of me, but luckily, shotgun. I was getting pretty tired of looting the same town over and over and over again, so I decided to head southeast to see what it had to offer. The trip was extremely long on foot, but it was worth every single footstep. As I approached the town, I happened to spot this cruiser bike just leaning against a telephone pole.
Oh. Oh!
As it turns out, this thing was in excellent condition, so much so that I thought that it had to have been driven here by another player, and perhaps they just didn't have a lock on it yet. I scoped out the place from the inside of this bush, but from what I could tell, there was no signs of another player here. The only option I saw at first was to push it, which made me think that it was still missing some parts, but once I got it unstuck from that telephone pole, I saw the option to drive it.
Drive! Haha! Oh my god.
My plan was to get this thing out of here and back to my silo ASAP, but then I got to thinking.
Now, can I fit this inside of my silo? That's the question. God, this thing can rip, dude. Jeez.
Feeling the power of this thing vibrating between my legs gave me the unique perspective of what it's like to be your mom, and I wasn't about to give that up. I ran out of gasoline about halfway back to base, but luckily with a bike, I could just push it the rest of the way. As soon as I got back to the silo, I ran inside and removed one of the silver locks on my door so I could slap it on the cruiser. I had a little bit of gas in the gas can that I found earlier, but it was barely enough to move the needle on this thing. This meant that I was about to make a trip to the gas station on foot. But first, I wanted to shove this thing inside of my silo, if it was even possible.
Please? Please? Yes!
It took a bit of finagling, but I knew the hole was big enough.
That's what she said.
I had a bit of a fight on my hands at the gas station, but luckily, shotgun. I also managed to find another hiking backpack inside, which were always incredible finds to stock up on. I filled up my small gas can, shoved this bedroll inside of my new backpack, pissed all over the floor to assert my dominance, and returned to my silo to gas up my bike. I still needed more gas to reach a full tank, but at least now I was able to drive it over there to fill it up. I'm not gonna lie, driving this thing out onto the boat dock was a bit sketchy, but I took it really slow and did my best to keep the cruiser away from the edges. I wasn't entirely sure what would happen if one were to drive straight into the ocean, but I wasn't about to find out. With this thing fully gassed up and operational, I reasoned that I probably should acquire some car repair kits as soon as possible. I drove this to town further southeast of me to roll the dice and see if I could find any. I systematically searched every single garage in this town, but alas, there were no car repair kits anywhere. While I was here, I hit up the police station though. The ammo and magazines were always nice to find, but I managed to pull another shotgun, so it was definitely worth it. Looting that town took pretty much the entire day, and I didn't find any car repair kits. Obviously, I was going to need to change my tactics a little bit, but I had other things on my mind. It was becoming more and more clear that this silo was limiting me. I couldn't place down any of the larger storage options, workbenches, or even block the back half of this upper layer to keep players out. There was a very distinct possibility that a player would simply drive their vehicle right up next to the silo, hop on top of their vehicle, and then climb inside of it to loot it. I wanted to be out of here before that happened. But it was getting late and I had to log off for the night. I wanted to add some extra security to keep my cruiser from being stolen, so I did the only thing I could think of. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you all to the System of Egregious Automobile Massacring End-of-Night Log-Out as Quickly as Possible Disassembly, or Seaman Load for short.
Wait a minute.
Now, I'm going to walk you guys through the steps of this process, but if you ever need a deeper understanding of seaman loads, just ask your mom. Basically, anytime I was logging off the game for the night, I would prop my vehicle up on a car jack and remove all of the tires and the battery. Chances are that whoever was raiding my base wouldn't have these things on hand to fix it up and drive it out of here, and they certainly wouldn't waste their time DPSing it down, so it was just some added security each night. Genius, if I do say so myself. The next time that I logged in, I was able to confirm the effectiveness of pulling off a seaman load. My cruiser was still here, and I simply had to reinstall all of the parts that I removed. My goal for today was to travel to the giant town east of me and loot the materials I was going to need to build my own base. The trip there was incredibly short because of how fucking fast this thing could rip, but the looting process took all day. I wasn't looting any fun stuff at this point, just things like metal, bolts, nails, and cloth. I needed a lot of cloth to craft a base claim flag, and I knew that I would probably have to move it once my base was built, which meant that I needed enough materials to craft it a second time as well. Luckily, you can bundle cloth together to save on inventory space. With my backpack full and the server going down in 4 minutes, today was quickly coming to an end. I logged back on as soon as the server was reset and continued my looting spree, but this time around I was just looking for fun stuff. I managed to find this electrical generator sitting on the ground, and considering I was about to build a base, I figured it would be an excellent thing to have. Unfortunately, this thing was incredibly heavy and way too big to fit inside of my backpack, but I'm a stubborn son of a bitch and decided to pick it up anyways. I carried it all the way back to my cruiser, only to realize that it wasn't going to fit inside of my bike's inventory either, so this thing was simply not coming with me. It certainly reinforced the idea that I needed to buy saddlebags at some point, but they were locked behind a fame point wall. Perhaps building my base would allot me enough points in the future, but for now I just needed to move on. I had to stop at a gas station to refill along my travels, and it never fails that there's an exploder zombie waiting at these things. For the record, these things will one-shot your character and more than likely destroy your entire vehicle if you don't take care of them first. Just like in real life, the cost of gasoline was slowly nickel and diming my bank account, so the sooner I could get my base established and get back to selling things, the better. Speaking of my base, I chose to build it in the woods just north of this quarry. I figured that this location was off the beaten path enough to where the average player wouldn't stumble across it, but close enough to POIs that it wouldn't hinder me too much. I found a relatively flat spot up in the woods and slapped down a land claim flag. It was a bit pricey, but I came prepared for that. I also slapped down a wooden storage box to clean out my inventory. With the land claimed and my inventory clean, I decided to start heading back to the silo base to empty out as much as I could. That place was basically a ticking time bomb, and I knew that it was only a matter of time before someone raided it. It had already been well over a week since the last time that I was there, and I was basically playing Russian roulette every time that I logged in. Once I got there, I started filling up a hiking backpack full of all of the valuable stuff that I didn't necessarily need, but I wanted to sell. I figured that I might as well make a trip to the outpost while I was here, since it was closer to this base than my new one. The next morning, I drove to the outpost and sold everything, netting me well over $5,000. Then I went to the mechanic, drove my cruiser onto the lift, and repaired every individual part of the bike to get it in tip-top shape. I would love to show you all of this, but alas, I'm a terrible content creator and forgot to press the record button until what you're seeing right now. I had about $3,500 left from what I sold, so I decided to buy some more food stuff while I was here to take back to base. Even after all of that, I had nearly $3,200 left to deposit into my account, which was going to help tremendously with today's gas prices. Since I botched the repair process when I got here, here's what the cruiser looks like all spiffed up. Basically, this floor mount acts as a car jack that you can drive up onto and repair each part individually using cash instead of a car repair kit. It's pretty cool, although quite expensive and not the most sustainable. I drove back to the silo and started grabbing all of the stuff I was going to need to make this new base a reality. Luckily, I had found a metal axe at one point, which was going to be invaluable for cutting down trees. Unfortunately, the portable refrigerator I found couldn't fit inside of my backpack or inside of the cruiser, so I was going to have to leave it behind for now. I cooked up all of the meat that I bought from the outpost to keep it from spoiling, and tore ass out of here heading to my new base. Thankfully, the flag that I placed down highlighted the area, so I was able to find it just as night fell. Day 49 and 50 were spent fully constructing my new base. I wanted it to be big enough to park my bike inside, but not so big that the upkeep costs would be steep. I decided that a 2x2 base would be ample enough room without being too much to take care of. Now you guys have seen me build small stuff up until this point, but constructing bases was a whole other beast. Blueprints had to be placed down in the world where you wanted things, then filled with the appropriate resources. Things had to be framed in thatch first, and then they could be upgraded to higher tiers, which is what I was working on here. Thatch structures were fairly cheap to make, but required a lot of rope, which meant a lot of branch rope crafting and tree cutting. This is where that metal axe came in handy. Not only did it cut trees down faster and with less stamina use, but it also had a much higher yield of logs when compared to, say, a small axe. As for getting the materials to where I needed them, I heavily abused the vicinity drop and drag technique. I later found out that you could simply place down a wooden box on the ground, fill it, and move it with a full inventory, but I didn't know that at the time, so get off my back about it already! Anyways, once you've seen me chop a tree, drag a tree, cut the tree, and add the resources, you've pretty much seen it all. To speed things up and keep it interesting, here's a montage.
Yeah, look, I don't do drugs, I'm addicted to the pain though. Yeah, I've been on it for a while, don't know how to put it down. Gotta have it, it's a habit, I'ma break though. I just wanna take a hit, keep saying I'ma quit, keep saying I'ma leave, but I stay though. I just want a little fix, I don't wanna take a risk. I don't like it when I drift from the safe zone, but lately I've been thinking I'ma have to. Letting go of things that I'm attached to. World don't stop just because I'm in a bad mood. You don't know what love is till you holding on to something that you can't lose. That's why I'm trying to get it together, sleeves up, putting work in, trying to be better. I like to rap, but I ain't gonna do it forever. Forget the charts, I'ma focus in on holding my head. A moment I get up, I just wanna know I'm doing my best. And if I'm not, Lord forgive me, you can have the regrets. Cause I can feel the water trying to go up over my head. Most of my life I always felt like I was holding my breath, holding my chest. To be honest, so I'm tired of it. Looking for something in my life to be inspired again. I like to walk around and act like I don't know what it is, but I know what it is, I just never wanna commit. Running from change, I'm looking for change, I'm searching for change, I'm looking for change, I just want change. I don't like new things, got a lot of mood swings. Oh, you wanna tell me something negative? I don't wanna hear what you think. Yeah, tossing in my sleep every night for like 2 weeks, thinking about how I could've done this or done that better. Can't help it, that's just me. Lies, that's just me avoiding the change. Yeah, it's probably why the issues ain't going away. Yeah, it's probably why I always sit around and complain, telling myself that I ain't never getting out of this place, out of my face. If you're telling me I need to be different, that's the issue though. I'm always insecurity driven, taking the wrong turns, acting like I know where I'm headed, waiting for something bad to happen. I can snap any minute. I need change. Yeah, it's kinda easy to say, right, but difficult to do when I feel like I hate life. And everyone around me kinda thinks I'm a great guy, but I don't ever think it, so I think I'm a fake liar. It's something that I know I should do. I'm a little uncomfortable to tell you the truth, but to be honest with you lately, I got nothing to lose. See, I've always been full of pain, but now I'm making some room, looking for change. I'm looking for change, I'm searching for change.
Well, I've gotta hand it to you, Bunna. You're doing a bang-up job of accomplishing fucking nothing so far.
Where are my clothes?
That's completely irrelevant right now. You finally managed to slap together a shitty little base 50 days into this challenge? Even licensing a song isn't going to save you from that lack of progress.
Look, dude, this game is tough. The NPCs are brutal, the survival elements are brutal, the gearing system is brutal, hell, even navigating the menus is brutal. I mean, cut me some slack.
The only slack you'll get is from the foreskins in prison.
Jesus Christ!
The only slacks you'll get are the ones around your ankles as you're being taken from behind.
Okay, you can stop now, dude, I get it.
Then you get your cute little ass back out there and check more things off that list.
Wait a second, what was that first part?
I said get back out there, you little sexy bitch.
Alright, this is getting weird.
Oh, what's that? Is that a bar of soap on the ground? Perhaps you should pick it up.
Okay, I'm leaving. It had been a few days since I last logged in, so I was pleasantly surprised to see that my base was just fine. This is just further testimony that the seaman load method always works. I wanted to spend today traveling back to the old silo base to grab what few things remained there. This involved a lot of speeding, shooting an explosive zombie, pumping some gasoline, crashing my bike into the guardrail because I saw something shiny, and then finding out that it was a cooking grid alongside the road for some reason. Anyways, it's a good thing that I moved base locations when I did, because the silo had officially been raided.
Somebody picked it.
Apparently the lock protection that I made doesn't get destroyed when locks are picked, so I was at least able to salvage it for the new base. As for that spare shotgun, well, it was gone. Honestly though, I had moved most of the valuable stuff out of here just in time, so I wasn't too upset by any of this. I knew it was coming, which is why I chose to move when I did. I rode back to base with what little I was able to salvage and spent the next 10 minutes aimlessly driving around in the dark looking for my base. It was really dark out, and I hadn't built a bed yet, so I was just guessing on the location. Eventually I found it, slapped that lock protection on my door, and placed down the blueprint for a storage shelf. The new base was coming together nicely, but it was still missing a bed, and I wasn't about to spend another night wandering around in the darkness. I had pretty much all of the materials I needed to fully construct this storage shelf, with the exception of metal. I knew I was going to need a lot of metal to start upgrading to the metal tier as well, which meant that today was going to be a looting day. This quarry just south of my base was a decent enough spot, plus I knew it had a few garages in the back that I could potentially pull some car repair kits out of. Little did I know just how lucrative this place could be.
Oh, sick. Oh, nice. Dude, this place is great. Oh my god. You've gotta be shitting me. Are you serious?
But wait! There's more!
Oh my god.
With my inventory already completely full, I rode back to base to bank everything, then drove back to the quarry to continue looting. The rest of the night was pretty boring. I was finding loads of metal that I needed, but I didn't find anything else that was super interesting. Come morning time, I had a backpack full of metal, tools, and other useful resources. I rode back to base and immediately wedged myself on another tree branch. Fuck me! I was finally able to finish constructing that storage shelf, and let me just say that it was beautiful. It had way more storage than that little wooden box, and would make a great place to throw all of my junk. Given that I had just found a drill the night before, I was finally able to craft my very own workbench. Now you're probably asking yourself, but Bana, what does it do? Well, it has multiple uses, but the main thing that I found was that I could repair most of my melee weapons and tools here. Best of all, it didn't cost any grinding stones or toolboxes to do it, which made my life way easier. The last thing I did was upgrade my base door to the metal tier, which allowed me to put more locks on it and gave it way more HP against explosives. The next time that I logged online, I had a plan. I needed to get more locks on my doors to beef up security, and trying to craft them with padlocks was kind of absurd. This only left me with one option, and that was to loot them. I knew for a fact that the scrapyard on the far east side of the map was a pretty solid place to find silver locks, so it was time for a road trip. So after an entire day's worth of riding, I had finally made it to the scrapyard. This place was tremendous, but extremely daunting. There were literally hundreds of cars, piles of scrap metal, rubble, buildings, and even tire piles to search. I have always been thorough when searching things in this game, and the scrapyard was no exception. I searched every single lootable container in my quest, and by the end of the day, I had accumulated 3 iron locks to show for it. Day 55 was simply a continuation from the previous day. My goal was to pull at least 2 silver locks from this place so I could max out the slots on my door. Looting was a bit slower than usual with all the zombies and NPCs that kept attacking me though. Plus, this place was absolutely massive. Even the interior portions had loads of containers to search. I got a bit excited when I spotted this cute little quad sitting here, but alas, it was in terrible condition. It didn't even have an engine, actually. Someone took the engine. I mean, who does that? I was finding loads of toolboxes, though, which were going to come in handy for all of my base upgrades and maintenance throughout the week. By the end of the day, I had accumulated 2 silver locks and 4 iron locks, officially checking all of the boxes of what I had wanted to accomplish with this trip. The next day was pretty much just spent riding home. I'll spare you guys the montage this time, but check out this bridge. It's a nice bridge. Also, I was pretty proud of how I bobbed and weaved my way through all these obstacles without bumping into a single thing. Anyways, I made it back to base and slapped those 2 silver locks on my front door, officially maxing out its capacity for locks. I slapped those iron locks on my storage containers as well, figuring that if someone did manage to break in here, I might as well make them work for it. I spent the little remaining time I had left repairing all of my gear and the cruiser before dropping a hot semen load and logging off. It had been a few days since I logged on, and I had a gut feeling that my base was raided while I was offline. Little did I know just how f***ed I was.
Okay, Derek, moment of truth.
What's that?
Let's see if I was raided. Here we go, and the entire base is gone.
Oh? So you weren't just raided, you were completely fucking wiped?
No, something's not right. My character's not here. This isn't right. Did the server fully reset?
Didn't SCUM just have an update recently? Did they wait for the update or something?
I hope they did not. I'm thinking it fully reset. I mean, it put me where I logged out, though, like where my base is. But, like, all of my gear's gone. My inventory's wiped, the base isn't here, my bike's gone.
Yes, when I Google it, the AI over here says, yes, official SCUM servers had a soft wipe on October 2nd to coincide with the release of an update.
You've gotta be shitting me.
This type of wipe resets the world and some player possessions while preserving character progress.
God damn it!
Those mother bitches over there!
So just like that, a game update had completely wiped all of my progress. To say that I was feeling agitated and defeated in this moment is a bit of an understatement. I was downright pissed. But after taking a couple minutes to process what happened, I realized that the show must go on. I couldn't let this get to me, and I just had to push forward. I got to work making all of the basics and headed south to loot the quarry. The only interesting thing I came across was this quad. It was actually in really good shape, it just needed 3 more tires. I decided to head further south the next morning to check out this other POI. As it turns out, it was another quarry, although this one was pretty lackluster compared to the first one. I don't think I pulled a single interesting thing out of this place, but I was finding all of the basics, and after the server's soft wipe, I was taking anything I could get. After a bit of finagling, I was able to scrape together the resources for an animal skin quiver and an improvised backpack. There was a cruiser in this quarry that was in terrible condition, and when I traveled to another nearby town, I found another cruiser that was somehow in worse condition. That quad back at the first quarry was looking more and more promising by the minute. I was coming across a lot of spare tractor parts, though, and I knew that if I could locate one close by, I just might be able to piece one together. I spent what little time I had left in this day running to the next town over. The next town had something pretty special in store for me. Sitting on the outskirts was a tractor in relatively decent condition. All it needed was 2 tires, and of course I still needed to locate a car jack to install them. As I was running around looting things, I noticed a PvP event was starting up, and I figured, what the heck? I might as well sign up too. I had done these things years ago, and remember it being a decent way of building up fame points, which I was currently in desperate need of. These things basically play out like death matches in any kind of an FPS game, albeit way slower and not much fun. There were only 3 of us playing at the time, which meant that it was a 2 versus 1 situation in my favor. Now at first, I thought that I was just a terrible shot with the SVD, but I would quickly come to realize that teammates don't actually appear any different than opponents do, and I was just shooting my teammate. I realized it once I put 2 full AR magazines into her and she was still kicking. I did manage to squeeze out 1 kill before the game ended, but then the other player left the match, which meant that we literally had no opponents to fight, so I left too. Back in the actual game, I managed to find a tractor tire, so I carried it over to the tractor and put it inside of the inventory for safekeeping. There was nothing more for me here until I managed to find a car jack though, so I started the long trek to the next town. I looted every single car and garage in this place until eventually I struck gold.
Oh, sick. Okay.
All of that looting also amassed me a nice collection of small screwdrivers, so I was able to hit up the police station while I was here, and it paid off in a big way.
Sick.
By the end of the day, I had a healthy backpack full of things to sell and a shiny new silver lock for that tractor. A few hours had passed between the events of yesterday and today, which meant that the server had reset. I decided to reloot all of the garages and the pharmacy in this place before moving on, and I'm glad that I did.
Oh, sick.
This large screwdriver enabled me to loot the police station a second time, which resulted in much more profit potential when I went to the outpost. If I did happen to get that tractor up and running, I knew I was going to need a lot of money for gasoline. Tractors are absolute gas hogs, so the more money I can make in a single trip, the better. After feeling content with what I had found, I started the long walk to the outpost in B4. By the next morning, I had finally reached the outpost. I liquidated all of my stuff at the armory and hospital and walked away with a nice little stack of cash. Even those pink military boots were worth a decent amount of money, but the real star of the show was that pair of night vision goggles. I wanted to buy a hiking backpack while I was here, but I didn't have enough fame points to access that section of the general store yet. Since the server had soft reset, the tutorial was available to take again, which I knew rewarded a decent amount of fame points for completion. I decided to go through this entire thing all over again, but I'll spare you the details. Lastly, I cooked up some meat skewers at the saloon to get my stats in order. Now that tractor that I had found still needed a battery and gasoline to become fully operational, so I decided to splurge and simply buy it while I was here. Even with all the stuff that I bought, I had a hefty $2,200 to deposit into my account before I left. It took me the rest of the day to walk from the outpost back to where that tractor was, and the entire walk there I was really hoping that another player didn't take it, or simply remove the tire from the inventory, as otherwise this entire plan was botched. Luckily, the tractor was still there, although I had to fight off a zombie that was trying to lay claim to it. The tractor tire was still there too, which meant that it was just a matter of piecing this whole thing together to get it up and running. I installed the tire, the battery, and filled up the gasoline to officially lay claim to yet another vehicle, albeit less impressive than my previous 2. With the tractor operational, I hopped in the driver's seat and fired it up for the first time. Planting my seat meat on something with wheels again was a glorious feeling, but the tractor was nothing special. It was really slow, really loud, and chewed through gasoline, so the sooner I could upgrade, the better. Also, if you may have noticed by now, this thing didn't have any doors, and I wasn't entirely convinced that another player couldn't just walk up and take it if they wanted to. I knew that if you shot a door off of a player's car, you could steal it, but I wasn't sure if that was the case with a tractor or not. I was just hoping that I would never have to find out. That small gas can didn't do a whole lot for filling up the fuel gauge though, so my plan was to drive to a nearby gas station to fill up. I ended up finding this tractor hood in a nearby farmstead, which was convenient since my ride didn't have one yet. The more put together this thing was, the better, because if I did decide to sell it later, I could get more money if it was in better condition. The drive to the gas station took a while, and like always, I stopped shy of it to get out and clear the place of zombies. Funny enough, I found a car battery inside of this building, which was an absolute slap in the face with how much money I just spent. Like I mentioned before, tractors are gas hogs, and for me to take this thing from 1/8 of a tank to full cost me nearly $700.
Jesus.
God, no wonder they call it Saudi Arabia, because they're always sodomizing my man labia.
Just keep packing it in.
I drove my sweet-ass ride to the next town and spent the rest of the day looting. This place had quite a few NPCs, but luckily, shotgun. The most notable thing I found here was this portable fridge, which I promptly carried back to the tractor for safekeeping. The one nice thing about a tractor was the sizable amount of storage space it had in the carriage. I didn't have a lock to put on it yet though, which meant that any old player could walk up and loot it if they wanted to. I was finding tons of firearms and ammo from this police station in town, but honestly I was happier about the other loot. Things like portable stoves, boxes of nails and bolts, pans, and cooking pots. It was becoming more and more likely that another base build was right around the corner, especially considering I stumbled across my first ever wild game. 2 wild boars were just chilling on the outskirts of this town, so I capitalized on the opportunity of free food and took them out. Now the boar carcasses were way too big to fit into my backpack, or even carry in my hands, but that's what the tractor was for. I done did drive that sumbitch right up to where they were laying and was able to put them right in the inventory.
Beautiful.
But all of this was just the tip of the iceberg.
That's awesome.
I even managed to find an iron lock for my tractor carriage, which would at least keep any player from just strolling up and looting it. Probably the biggest find of this entire town, though, was this lone quad sitting in a garage. Now, on the surface, this thing's a piece of shit. But it had 1 tire. If you happen to recall, that quad back at the quarry already had 2 tires, which technically meant that with this tire in my possession, I could at least drive that thing out of there and claim it for my own. The next morning, I pissed all through this apartment building's hallway to assert my dominance, then drove my tractor over to the quad to remove the tire I was talking about. I couldn't quite remember what all that other quad was missing, so I stripped off a few more additional parts in case I needed them. I figured that at the very least, I could always sell what I didn't use. My tractor was getting pretty full at this point, and while most of it was going to be repurposed into building a new base, there was a lot of stuff that I simply wanted to sell to get the bank account built up. Since I was closer to the outpost now than I would be back at the quarry, I decided to head there first. Even with the tractor, this journey took a good while, and I'm still not even entirely confident that another player couldn't just run up and steal it without it having any doors. That was simply a chance I was willing to take. I pulled in over $3,500 at the armory alone, and decided to reinvest some of it into repairing my tractor. I touched up everything but the chassis, which is arguably the most important part, but it cost over $1,000 to repair it, and quite honestly, I didn't think it really needed it. I finally had enough fame points to purchase a hiking backpack, which would make the base building process a lot easier. Lastly, I decided to spray paint my tractor a forest green color to help it blend in more, but then I found out that the carriage can't be painted, so it really didn't do a whole lot. I puttered my way out of the outpost to start heading towards the quarry, but as always, I had to stop for gas along the way. That's when the game notified me that an airdrop was coming down in my sector, and not only that, but I was damn close to it. I quickly fueled up and started heading towards where it was coming down. Now, I didn't exactly want to drive my loud-ass tractor straight up to the thing, especially since there could be a lot of NPCs to deal with, so I parked it in some bushes down the street and proceeded on foot. This was a really good call. As I anticipated, this place was packed with zombies. No, I mean like, packed with zombies. I felt like for every one that I killed, 2 more showed up. I was actually getting a bit concerned that I was going to get overwhelmed at first, but then I saw the green smoke of the airdrop pouring into the air.
Oh, it landed! Oh.
Not only is it a race against other players to get to these airdrops, but they also self-destruct after 20 minutes, so it's pretty crucial to get in and out quickly. I made a big mistake here though when I thought that I saw a player running down towards me.
Oh, what's a player?
It turns out that it was just another zombie that popped into frame for a second, and I confused it for that same frame popping that you would experience if a player broke line of sight. Foolishly, I pulled out my shotgun, thinking that I might have a gunfight on my hands, but this made the situation much worse. That shotgun blast drew a lot of unwanted attention from all of the zombies around the field, and I had one hell of a fight on my hands at that point. Fortunately, I was able to take them all down and re-enter the container to begin looting it. These things have locked storage containers that have to be lockpicked in order to loot. The first 2 were absolute trash, but the loot started getting better as I went along. I found a brand new chainsaw in the 3rd bay, and a sweet new 357 pistol with a hollow sight in the next.
Okay. Alright. Oh, sick.
I also found a gas mask, a car battery, and a Leica alternator, all of which would be worth a good bit back at the outpost. But the fun was only just beginning. As soon as I opened the door, a zombie rushed into me, and for the life of me, I could not land a single shot. You would think I would have learned my lesson the first time, but alas, I didn't. With all of the stuff I just looted, I wasn't able to outrun the horde chasing after me, so my only option was to turn around and fight. Every time I tried to pull the trigger though, a zombie slapped me and threw my reticle off. Eventually I swapped to melee and somehow managed to finish off the horde, but I was in a really bad way. Luckily, I wear a pair of sexy shorts at any given hour of the day for this very occasion. I'm even wearing a pair while I'm recording this voiceover. That's how dedicated I am.
Okay. I think we're okay.
I had to pop a couple painkillers to get rid of the limp so I could get out of there and make it back to my tractor. The drive to the quarry was relaxing and gave me some time to heal up, which is the precise opposite of what happened once I got there. The quad was still there, luckily, but as I was installing the 2 tires that I had found, I heard an NPC shouting at me.
Oh god. Oh, fucking hell, dude. Oh. How many more are there?
Fortunately, there weren't any more. All 3 of those NPCs had guns, and I still wasn't even full HP from that airdrop, so if even one of them tagged me with a bullet, I very well could have died. Anyways, I installed the 2 tires on the quad and decided to remove the iron lock from my carriage to put on it for now. I snagged a bunch of car repair kits from these garages and managed to find another tractor inside of this quarry that had a door panel. 1 door is better than no doors, so I'll take it. I puttered my sweet little ass up the hillside to where my old base used to be before the server wipe and slapped on a flag blueprint to mark the spot. I ran back to the quarry on foot and hopped on my 3-wheeled quad to get it out of there. This thing actually wasn't too bad to drive with only 3 wheels, but the chassis was constantly taking small amounts of chip damage, so I knew it wasn't feasible to drive it without the 4th wheel. I parked it next to my tractor in the woods and tried firing up the chainsaw for the first time. It took me like 6 attempts to finally start the thing, which is about par for the course in real life. This thing was incredible for mass cutting trees and making planks. Not only was it faster, but it had a much higher yield than some of the lower tier cutting tools. I made fast work of constructing this wooden box so I could start dumping resources. The reason I had to dump those resources was because the base building had to be put on the back burner for now. You see, 2 things happened yesterday that I haven't talked about just yet. 1, I lost my car jack, and 2, I was struggling with a wicked infection. I wasn't entirely sure what happened to my car jack, but I knew that the last time I used it was when I installed this new tractor door, so I decided to head back down to check the area. Reviewing the footage and editing confirms that this is where I left it, but when I had went back down, it fully despawned. Strangely enough, another quad had spawned in the same spot as the last one, complete with 1 tire. The singular tire that I needed to get my quad fully operational. If only I had a car jack. I spent the next 10 minutes scouring the town looking for one, but alas I came up short. As for the infection, well, it turns out that patching one's wounds with dirty, sexy shorts is a good way to spread bacteria. All of those wounds I sustained at the airdrop were coming back with a vengeance, and I didn't have any antibiotics. I figured my best bet was to travel west to check the town pharmacy, and if that didn't pan out, then I'd have to head to the outpost.
Oh, please have antibiotics. Painkillers.
Unfortunately, this pharmacy didn't have any, so it was off to the outpost. As you can tell from all the desaturated colors and graphical artifacting, the infection was really taking hold at this point, and only got worse by the time I reached the outpost. Now, I tried to get ahead of Scum's bullshit at this point by purchasing 2 antibiotic pills, and as you'll find out later, it's a good thing that I did.
Is it fixing it? Oh, did it do it? Ha-ha! Ha-ha! Oh my god. Oh my god, my health's going back up. Yes, the colors! Oh, the colors!
I sold all the stuff that I didn't need from the airdrop to the armory, general store, and mechanic, all adding up to a staggering $5,500. Rather than keep searching for a car jack, I just bit the bullet and purchased one while I was here. Then I made the really stupid mistake of accidentally repairing my tractor's chassis, which cost me a fuck ton of money.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Fuck. Fuck, I didn't mean to click that. Oh, that was so much money.
I started the long journey back to the quarry when the game notified me that my wounds were getting infected.
What do you mean my wounds are getting infected? What the f*** do you mean? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, I bought a second antibiotic, motherfucker. Uh-huh. I figured this game would be bullshit, so I thought ahead. Yeah, that's right, fuck you.
Okay, so I was a bit aggressive in my reaction there, but the game had been batting me around for days on end, so take it easy on me. Back at the quarry, I snagged that 4th quad tire and a few other spare parts I thought I might need, and drove back to my new base spot. I got the new parts installed on my quad, spray painted it a forest green, and used a car repair kit to fully repair it. Finally, after many days had passed in this challenge, I was reunited with my beautiful, precious quad. My precious! With all of that out of the way, it was time to get down to business. Now you guys have already watched me build a base in the last montage, so I'll spare you the details this time around, but the one thing I do want to mention is how I went about it this time. After learning that you can simply vicinity drop a box full of stuff to move it around, I decided to make a wooden box specifically dedicated to hauling wood. This way I could drag it over to a tree I was cutting, fill it up, and then drag it back to the base to unload it. This, combined with the chainsaw, made base building so much easier. By the end of the day, I already had my entire base fully framed out in thatch, which would have took me a very long time with the old method. Day 69 was all about fucking your mom. No, I'm just kidding. But it did involve a lot of shoving wood in tight places. I wanted to get this thing fully upgraded to the wood tier by the end of the day, and with the help of the chainsaw and my new box moving method, I was on a fast track to do it. It was just getting nighttime by the time I was finishing things up, but I wanted to get some of the inner workings in place as well. I found these adorable kitchen counters that were pretty cheap to make and actually offered some additional storage for small stuff.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
I decided to frame the whole corner of my base in them to make a little kitchen, and I built the lower portion of the bunk bed to mark my base spot. I was able to place my portable refrigerator, stove, and kitchenware on top of my new cabinets. I even found a propane tank at one point that I could put in the corner, although I didn't have anything that ran on propane at the time. I finished off this storage shelf and fully reconstructed my workbench in the same spot as last time. Now I had been on for multiple hours at this point, and it was time to get off for the day, so I drove my quad inside of my base and dropped a hot semen load to prevent thieves from taking my vehicles. It had been a couple days since I was last online, so I was pleasantly surprised to see that my base was still fully intact. Don't worry, my quad was still there too, but for some reason it takes a few seconds for vehicles to pop into existence when you first join the server. My biggest bottleneck right now was the lack of locks for my doors and vehicles. I only had one silver lock on the door and no lock protection, so it was only a matter of time before someone broke in, and I wanted to try my best to keep that from happening. I knew that military bases were a good place to find enforced locks, and I figured I might as well try one. There was one located just north of my base, so I drove my sexy new quad to it and parked in the nearby bushes. Military bases are an altogether different beast to tackle in this game. They're full of these giant automated robots called sentries, and if you get spotted by one,
you're gonna have a bad time.
I spent a few minutes watching its movement patterns before proceeding. These sentries can spot you through the tiniest little crevice of any kind, so I did my best to lay prone and avoid the windows. I immediately found a combat helmet in this first trailer, so things were already starting to pay off. Then I heard a gunshot.
Whoa. An NPC? What the f*** is going on?
So apparently NPCs can spawn inside of these military bases, and the sentries were not about that life. It's kind of comical how many bullets it took to kill it though, and I'm glad that I didn't have to face off against it. I took my time and made sure to watch how the sentries were pathing before entering buildings, and always closed the doors behind me for extra coverage. I caught myself trying to run a few times, so I made sure to slow down and not draw attention. I found a military helmet inside of this green crate, and another combat helmet shortly after. So far, this place was giving more head than your mom.
Boom!
Eventually, I made my way onto the roof of this building, which gave me a nice vantage point, but I was a little uneasy about it with all the sentries around me. I felt like Sly Cooper with the way I was walking across pipes and sneaking through this place, and while I thought that I botched it at one point, it turns out that it was just another NPC in this place, and the sentries were not happy.
Okay, it wasn't me. Holy hell.
I did get spotted at one point when I was running into this small metal bunker, but luckily the sentry's shots didn't hit me, and he eventually left me alone.
Oh. I think he knows I'm here.
Just as I was leaving this aircraft carrier, a sentry immediately spotted me from somewhere.
What?
I moved positions knowing that it was going to lay down some fire where it spotted me at, and I thought that that was that. But this thing was on high alert now, which meant that if it spotted me again, it wouldn't give me any warning and would just start firing. It seemed like no matter where I went or which building I went into, this thing managed to spot me. I swear they can see you through the cracks of doors. Anyways, I avoided it for a while, but then it kind of caught me with my pants down out in the open. Oh, this ain't good. Oh, shit. Ah. So there I was, plummeting towards the earth at a rapid rate. Luckily, it didn't spawn me too far from where I died, so I was able to sprint back in a few minutes' time. I tried looting my body while the sentries had their backs turned, but I was immediately spotted by multiple of them in multiple directions. One of them opened up some fire on me and managed to clip my leg, but luckily it didn't fully cripple me and only did minimal damage. It did cause a significant bleed though, so I had to backburner acquiring my body in favor of finding a knife so I could cut up some clothes and patch my wounds. I searched for a knife for about 5 minutes to no avail, and eventually just had to craft a stone one. I knew it was going to take a long time to heal back up, so I just went AFK inside of this building. As soon as I saw the chance to get my stuff back, I took it. I didn't want to dilly-dally around any longer since this place was swarming with sentries and I could be shot at any moment, so I was pretty quick with re-equipping all of my stuff and getting out of dodge. This was definitely enough excitement for one day, and I felt pretty confident I looted most of the valuable stuff anyways, so I decided to bounce. Now, despite me dying, this technically was a successful military base looting, but I didn't manage to find any enforce locks, which is the whole reason I came here. I didn't have the energy to tackle another military base, so I decided that the scrapyard far to the east of the map was the next best place. I did manage to find this right tractor door in this farmstead, but my quad simply didn't have the inventory space to carry it, so I had to leave it behind. I stopped at this gas station to fuel up on the way when another player on a tractor went puttering by. I was kind of hoping he was going to pull up for fuel so I could jump him, but alas he kept going. I was just grateful to be the guy on the quad and not the guy on the tractor. I was able to travel at twice the speed as before for about half the cost, so mathematically speaking, that's like 1,000% cheaper.
What the
As I was leisurely driving through this one town, a group of NPCs came pouring onto the streets and managed to get a shot off.
Whoa. Oh my god.
That single shot resulted in a C4 injury, which left untreated would have been fatal.
A C4? Jesus Christ.
While I was in town, I decided to hit up the pharmacy and police station for obvious reasons, but honestly the thing I needed the most was some thread so I could make a sewing kit. My gear was shot from that military base, and the inventory struggles were real. Luckily, I was able to find some inside of this one house, and I was able to fully repair everything. I made it to the scrapyard by the following morning and parked my quad inside of this bush to conceal it. Like always, I used a building blueprint to mark the location and got to work looting the place. Just like the last time that I was here, I wasn't disappointed, as after only a few short minutes I had snagged my first silver lock.
Yes. Just like that.
As I was running around looting things, I could have swore that I heard an engine starting and stopping. I should have listened to my instincts better and approached more cautiously, but it sounded much further away than it actually was.
Oh my god! Holy shit!
And just like that, another player gunned me down. It's honestly disgusting how fast you can die to another player in this game. I mean, I maybe saw him for a few frames before he instantly killed me. So there I was, plummeting towards the earth at a rapid rate. Luckily, my parachute got me a good length of the distance there, and I was able to make some fast time on foot to get back. Now, I knew there was no chance of getting my stuff back since it was another player that took me out, but I was more concerned about my quad. I reasoned that the other player would probably be scouring the place looking for my vehicle, and I didn't want to just leave it there to be found. Luckily, it was still there, and I quickly drove it away to get out safely. Now, I didn't drive all this way across the map just to leave here empty-handed, and the mission hadn't changed. I still needed locks for my base, but this place was too hot right now to loot. I decided to park in a random bush and log off for a few hours to let the server reset. After some time had passed, I hopped back online and drove back to the scrapyard to continue my quest. It took me a few minutes to craft all of the basics again, but then I got to work looting the daylights out of this place. Shortly into the looting session, I managed to find a carjack, which was just scum kicking me in the balls even further. But that's okay. By the end of the day, I had amassed quite a few iron locks and a silver lock to take back to base, and with a bit of resource juggling, I was even able to scrape together the resources to make a basic lock protection. I stumbled across this metal wheelbarrow in a scrapyard that was locked by a player, and I figured I would try my hand at picking it to see if they chucked anything inside. After quite a few failed attempts, I actually managed to succeed.
Haha! I picked a lock on this thing. Oh, that's not what I want.
Unfortunately, there was nothing inside of here, so I wasted a lot of time and resources. At this point, I had some real-life responsibilities popping up, and I had to log off for a while. The next time I logged in, it was dark out, which is unfortunate from the visual perspective, but also good for providing me cover to get out of here safely. I had some trouble finding my quad at first, even with my building blueprint serving as a marker, which is just testimony to how well I hit it. I had amassed a lot of sellables during my time away from base, and I figured it was time to go cash them in, especially since I was getting really low on money from dying and buying gasoline. The drive to the outpost took a while, but it was well worth it. I sold everything I could to the different vendors, which paid for fixing up my quad and bought me a new hiking backpack. I even had enough money left over to pay for respawns and gas, which I was in desperate need of. I used what was left in my small gas can to get me a bit further, but I knew I couldn't make it the whole way back to base without stopping for fuel. Since I didn't have any arrows, I stopped shy of the gas station to make some when 2 NPCs jumped me.
Oh my god.
You seriously can't stop for a fucking second in this game without it going to shit. Just to spit in my face even more, this gas station had not 1, but 2 hiking backpacks.
Oh my god.
But it's fine. Everything is fine. I'm fine.
You are not doing fine.
I know.
I mean, you barely scraped by in that military base, and you completely whiffed the chance to kill another player in the scrapyard.
I know, but hear me out. This game is hard.
That's the point, moron! It's meant to challenge you, to break you, to make you do things that you wouldn't normally do.
Dude, I am not picking up that bar of soap.
You should pick it up.
No, but look, I'll meet you halfway with the checklist. I wasn't happy with the military base either, and I'm gonna try my best to get a player killed by whatever means necessary.
You f***ing better, you squirting little sex muffin.
Dude, what has gotten into you?
I don't know. I think it's this whole prison vibe.
Well, knock it off.
Offer still stands.
Day 76, I spent the entire day driving home. It was pitch black outside, so the ride wasn't very enjoyable, and yeah, I may have hit a few things along the way, so what? Overall, the mission was very successful, and I had some locks to show for it. I put the silver lock and basic lock protection on my door, as that was the most important thing to keep secure. I tried to upgrade the door to the metal tier, thinking that it would give me a 3rd lock slot, but it only unlocked the sensor slot, which I didn't really care about right now. As for all of those iron locks that I found, I reasoned that I might as well slap them on my internal storage boxes. If someone did happen to break into here, at least their life would be miserable. Now, it had been close to a week since the last time that I logged in, but I wanted to hop on before work to see if I still had a base, and if so, do some base maintenance.
Alright, Merlin. Moment of truth, buddy. Here we go. Let's see. Alright. So far, so good. Okay. Oh, somebody did pick my tractor, though. But they didn't take it. Why the hell wouldn't they take it?
I'm assuming that they didn't take this thing because they didn't have a tractor tire receipt. It just goes to show how important semen loads are.
Jizz in my pants.
Uh-huh, see? They're overtaking me. Uh-huh. But I caught it. F*** you guys.
Just for clarification, if a player were to overtake my base flag, they could simply destroy the components of my base and walk right in without having to pick the locks or use explosives. Basically, it's a good thing that I logged in when I did. It had once again been a few days since I logged online, but all was well with the base.
Okay, we're still in good shape. That's a good sign.
Now, during my time off of the game, I had been doing some research. I wasn't happy with my performance at that last military base, and I was still struggling in the lock department. I knew there were some good military bases to hit up for enforced locks, so that's where I was focusing my attention. I found this YouTube creator by the name of Lutheus who has an entire SCUM masterclass on his YouTube channel, but one video in particular caught my eye. He basically does a step-by-step walkthrough of how to properly loot this air hangar on the northwest side of the map, and apparently this place is incredible for locks. The only caveat was, I wasn't in a good position to tackle it at this moment. I needed a better silenced bow, a firearm, inventory space, rags in case I took damage, food, and most importantly, cash for gasoline and in case I had to respawn in the sector. So despite my angst to go and tackle this thing right now, the writing was on the wall that I wasn't in the best place to do it. I needed to slow down, take my time with preparing, and approach it intelligently, so that's exactly what I did. First and foremost, I cooked some meat skewers to get my food situation figured out, and while that was happening, I started working on a plan to check everything off the list that I had in my head. Once I left the base, I wanted to do everything in one fell swoop.
I want to do it in one fell swoop.
The first place I went to was the medieval castle. I reasoned that I could get myself a better bow, arrows, gear for inventory space, and some medieval swords to sell for cash. As always, this place did not disappoint. I found a predator bow pretty early into the looting session, and I was finding a decent amount of carbon arrows scattered around the vicinity. Killing all of the puppets around here let me recraft my improvised quiver, and I was slowly banking the things I needed to make bow silencers. As always, I was being thorough in my search for awesomeness, and it finally paid off.
Yes. Okay, that's what I wanted. Very good.
The castle had been fully looted at this point, and while I didn't find as many medieval swords as I was hoping for, the trip was definitely worth it. Not only did I get a good bow and arrows, but I also scavenged all of the things I needed to make 2 bow silencers. My master plan was coming together, but I wasn't done with my one fell swoop.
I want to do it in one fell swoop.
I traveled southwest towards another town that I reasoned would have some good loot spots. I hit up the police station looking for a firearm of some kind, and while I did have some luck finding ammo, magazines, and an advanced compass, I didn't find any guns here. I did come across a tactical handgun holster on the roof though, so if I did come across one, at least it wouldn't take up any precious inventory space. I made sure to hit up all of the garages and workshop while I was here for screwdrivers and gear. As luck would have it, I happened to find a utility belt, which added a lot of extra space that would be helpful for that bunker. Lastly, I hit up the pharmacy looking for painkillers, which was also a successful endeavor. It was getting dark out by the time I finished up in this town, and I wanted to get as close to the outpost as I could before morning. I made it as far as the town that we all know and love, which was fortuitous because I needed gasoline anyways. I don't think I'll ever not be nervous driving out on a dock like this for gas, but you gotta do what you gotta do. I wanted to stop at the pharmacy here to try to find some antibiotics in case I found myself in a pinch again, but then I heard an NPC coming towards me. I peeked around the corner and took her out pretty fast, but she had a friend.
Oh my god.
Luckily, I was able to take some cover and use the land to my advantage here. The pharmacy didn't have anything useful, so it was time to bounce. I took my time to scope things out and made sure there wasn't any other NPCs lurking around, but apparently I did a poor job.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, please don't crash, please don't crash. Go, 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 go. Holy hell. Where the heck were they?
I reached the outpost in no time and liquidated all of the stuff I didn't need at the various vendors. I figured I should repair my quad while I was here, but I've learned from past mistakes. I decided to use a car repair kit to fix up the chassis first, that way when I drive it into the garage for repairs, there was no chance of me misclicking and spending boatloads of money. See? I'm learning! I ended up with over $4,000 when it was all said and done, which would hopefully be enough to pay for gasoline and respawns in that sector if it came to it. I drove back home and spent the rest of the day cleaning up my inventory, cooking food, and dropping a hot semen load.
Fucking delicious.
Finally, after a couple days of prep work, I was ready to tackle the Air Hangar. I stopped for some gas and started a very long drive all the way to the far northwest of the map. Once I got there, I came across this narrow stone tunnel burrowing through the mountainside. I knew from past experiences on SCUM that players would landmine these things to kill other players driving through, so I turned on my headlamp and took it very slow. After I made it through the tunnel, I found out that I didn't have to go through it at all, so that was just a needless risk that I took. I parked my quad in a nearby bush and marked the location with a spike blueprint like always. These sentries all have very specific movement patterns, and you have to time things just about perfect to make it from bush to bush and stay concealed. I could feel my little ass cheeks clenching every time one of these things walked right beside me, just hoping that I was inside the bush enough to stay hidden. After watching their movement patterns for like 10 minutes straight, I decided to toughen up and take my chances. I made sure not to run and only jog as to not make extra noise, and successfully reached the entrance to the air bunker.
I did it! Oh my god, I did it!
Now that I was inside the air bunker, the real fun began.
Oh.
I had to be very careful of these self-delete zombies scattered throughout here. One wrong turn, and it was game over. Now, I had watched Lutheus's video pretty closely from start to finish to understand the route of this POI, but even still, it was really confusing. I found myself constantly referring back to his video for guidance on where to go and where the NPCs could spawn. That being said, I immediately made a wrong turn at this intersection, which would come back to bite me later. Now, this place had a lot of containers to loot, but oftentimes they were in very awkward positions or just too dangerous to get to. Every time I found a safe, completely closed room like this, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. This is typically where I would stop to organize my inventory or keep my stats in check. Now, I can't possibly begin to show you all of the loot that I was pulling from this place because this video would be absurdly longer than it already is, so I'll just have to summarize at the end. I made sure to use my bow to take care of any zombies along my path, and tried my best to time my movements right to avoid being detected. But even still, things didn't go quite as expected.
Oh.
Luckily, I was able to get away fast enough and find some cover, but in my focus on that last sentry, a new one managed to spot me.
Oh.
I knew I couldn't stay prone behind that dumpster, so I decided to risk moving to another location, which ended up getting me caught between a rock and a hard place, or, in this case, 2 sentries. I mean, one good thing came out of it, though.
Oh, sick.
I waited for the sentries to go away and made my move, but just as I approached this workshop area, 3 NPCs come at me in full force. I used quick peeks around the corner to dispatch of them quickly, but this third one had a gun and was seemingly invulnerable to my arrows. He managed to get a shot off on me before I finally took him down. The timing couldn't have been any tighter, though, because the sentry caught up to me and fired off some shots. That single bullet from the NPC resulted in a C4 bleeding wound, which would have killed me if I didn't come prepared. If I'm being honest, though, it didn't quite matter. This next section wasn't looking all that familiar to me, and even though my gut was telling me that this was the wrong way, I didn't listen to it and proceeded anyways. I got spotted by a sentry on my way through, and while I thought I could hide from it, well...
Oh, this ain't good. Shit! No!
So there I was, plummeting towards the earth at a rapid rate. But I wasn't deterred. I was determined. This is exactly why I went out of my way to make all of that money, because I knew the likelihood of me needing to respawn in this sector was pretty high. I ran back to the air bunker and took my time working my way back inside. With no armor, meds, or even a knife to make rags, I had to make sure I didn't get spotted on my way back in. Like a broke white 90s rapper in Detroit, I've only got one shot.
Only get one shot!
Whether through luck or skill, I was able to make it back inside. The NPCs hadn't respawned yet, which was really fortunate considering I had no way of fighting them. I remained as stealthy as I could and took my time working my way back to my body. After searching it, I even decided to hide and let the sentry pass again before regearing. I corrected the error of my ways by navigating back the way I came in and took a different route. This was the workshop I was supposed to be at, but I had a bit of a fight on my hands with all the zombies and NPCs. Luckily, none of them had guns, or I might have been screwed. I found a hiking backpack inside of this room, which I did pick up and carry around for a bit, but ultimately decided it was a bad idea since it slowed down my bow draw. These kind of rooms with tarped containers were gold mines for ammo and gun parts. As you can tell, the collection was stacking up pretty nicely, and I had only scratched the surface of this place. I had another close call with this sentry, but luckily it missed its shots and I was able to take some cover. I found my way into the dormitories and had a lot of containers to loot in here. I found a pink ghillie suit and a camouflage jacket on one side, and a gas mask and utility belt on the other. With this section done, it was time to move on. I was still constantly referring to Lutheus's video for guidance, as trying to navigate this place myself would have been an absolute nightmare. I tried my best to take out the zombies along the way before they became a problem, but my arrow supply was becoming concerningly low. Even though I was picking up all of my arrows as I went along, sometimes they broke or I shot in an area that was unsafe to retrieve. I could hear a self-delete puppet right around the bend here, and I didn't want to engage until I had a clear line of sight. I was basically just laying prone watching Lutheus's video when this happened.
Jesus.
When I saw my opportunity to move on, I took it. According to Lutheus, this section of the POI was the most profitable in terms of gold locks and gear. I found another pink ghillie suit right off the rip, which was a good sign of what's to come. I could hear another self-delete zombie in the medical wing, but for the life of me I couldn't get him to open the door. I didn't want to be the one to push, so I left him for now. After thoroughly looting the listening post, I came across a military quiver. In one of the lower bunkers, I found a BCU lock and a dial lock, but if I'm being honest, I wasn't entirely sure how either of these things worked. I finally worked up the nerve to open up that medical post and take care of this stupid self-delete zombie that had been beeping in my ear for the past 20 minutes. This place had loads of valuable meds to loot, which would be great to sell at the outpost. There was one more wing to loot in this lower section, but with the server going down in 5 minutes, I figured it was best if I just bunkered in a safe spot and logged off for now. That short time off of the server was much needed to get my heart rate back down, but once it came back online, I was right back to it. This warehouse section was the one that I missed out on before the reset, which is a damn shame considering it had some of the best loot. It wasn't nearly as overpowered as it was in Lutheus's video because the Scum devs nerfed the pallets down here, but I was still pulling in loads of ammo and military-grade equipment. The opposite side of this place was the food barracks, but even there I was finding boxes upon boxes of brand new ammo, so at the very least it was great for money. Even my corgi was getting all fired up because of the excitement of it.
Yeah, buddy.
This place had quite a few wall cabinets to lockpick as well, which netted me a Geiger counter, a compound bow, a Kar 98 rifle, and a MAC-10 submachine gun. Inventory space was beyond tight at this point, so I opted to leave behind the compound bow, but I made sure to mark it as my territory before leaving. I managed to find another enforced lock in this tart container, which really got my corgi fired up again.
Merlin, you're not helping my stealth.
I found another one shortly thereafter, and started making my way back to the spot that I died before. Somehow I got this sentry all pissed off, but I was able to sneak past him with time and patience. It's a really good thing I was in a concealed location when this next part happened, though.
Oh, I passed out.
Apparently, my guy was suffering from hyperthermia for a while, so I had to lose some clothes to cool down. Lesson learned, if you wear too many clothes,
you're gonna have a bad time.
Now this place here might look familiar to you. It's where I died on my first attempt. This time I knew where I was going, though. I thought I had slipped right behind this sentry without drawing any attention, but somehow it spotted me, which turned into this intense game of hoping this hangar door opened before it got to me. Luckily, I made it inside and could take a few deep breaths. Now this place in here was devoid of sentries, but it was a pretty common spawn site for NPCs, which I discovered personally the hard way. Just another C4 bleeding injury, nothing a couple rags can't fix. I so badly wanted to take this anti-personnel mine that I found, but I simply didn't have the space or the weight to carry it, so I had to leave it. There were only a few more small sections to pass through to get out of here, but I could hear a self-delete puppet ahead, and I didn't want to rush it. Luckily, the patrolling sentry took care of it for me. I slipped by the sentry when I saw the chance, and found another pink ghillie suit and one more enforced lock in this final section. I had officially reached the end of the air hangar at this point, but now I was left with the daunting task of escaping in one piece. The route leading out of here was sketchy to say the least. There were 2 patrolling sentries outside, and it seemed like no matter how I tried to peek, they could spot me. I spent a solid 10 minutes here, just watching their movement patterns and trying to find an opening. Eventually the opportunity presented itself, and I took it. I ran to the closest bush to hide out for a moment, then made the run across the airstrip to safety. I was certain I was about to get shot in the ass on my way across this pavement, but luckily I didn't get spotted and can officially say that I tackled the air hangar successfully. It took a bit of time running back to my quad on foot, especially since I was so heavy with loot and overheated from all the clothing. For clarity, I parked on the south side and exited on the north side, but at least I never came close to the dark side.
Dark side, you are correct. We got Death Star. We got Death Star.
Now that I made it out of here safely, it was time to head to an outpost to liquidate all the things that I didn't need. All in all, I ended up with 6 enforced locks, a silver lock, a BCU lock, and a dial lock from that POI. I also wanted to keep the MAC-10, a 357 Magnum, and some of the MP5 parts that I found to start building a machine gun, but the rest was about to be cash. I pulled in over $18,000 from all of that ammo, gun parts, and ghillie suits that I found, and another $1,700 from some of the meds. The bank account was looking better than ever, and I was driving home with a smile on my face knowing that I had the best locks in the game to secure it. Best of all, I did it in one fell swoop.
You should start using one fell swoop more.
Back at base, I repaired my quad, dropped a hot semen load in preparation of my logout, and got to work installing my brand new locks. I wasn't entirely sure which order I should put them in, but I reasoned that 2 enforced locks followed by a dial lock might be the best bet, as enforced locks were really difficult to pick, and dial locks apparently took a really long time to figure out. I also put 2 enforced locks on my 2 vehicles to keep everything as secure as possible. On day 86, I slowed things down a minute. Spending the past week preparing for and subsequently tackling the air hangar had me pretty drained, and I just needed a chill day. I cleaned up some of the inventories in my base and decided to head south to the quarry to loot. I reasoned that extra car repair kits were never a bad thing, and I needed metal to upgrade my base, so I figured why not just hit up this town. The server was going down in 30 minutes anyways, which gave me almost the perfect amount of time to clear it. Per the usual, this game loves spitting in my face every chance it gets.
Wow. Okay.
I found another hiking backpack while I was exploring this place, and by the end of the 30 minutes, I had it almost completely full of metal scraps for back at base. As soon as the server was back online, I started heading east. You see, I had crossed a lot of things off of the list up until this point, but one still eluded me, and that was to kill another player in PvP. I reasoned that in order to do that, I needed to get a better weapon. That meant that I was going to have to try to tackle more military bases, and I figured what better one to attempt than the one to the far east of the map that I stepped into way back when. It looked pretty simple to get into, and from what little research I did online, it was a pretty good spot to find firearms. It was really dark outside when I started driving, and about halfway there I remembered that I had night vision goggles. I'm not entirely sure these things were helpful, but I kept them on for a while. When I stopped at a gas station to fuel up, I found another military quiver and another hiking backpack. Initially, I was perturbed by this, but then I realized that I could keep 3 of these things inside of my quad, essentially extending its inventory by a lot. I fueled up and finally hit my destination by mid-morning. Compared to the Air Hangar, this thing was an absolute cakewalk. There was only one patrolling sentry on the upper portion that I was on, and the underground bunker could be accessed via this metal hatch. All in all, this was a very simple infiltration, and I was underground in a matter of seconds. Based on my recent experiences with military bases, I was fully expecting to be fighting loads of zombies and NPCs, but much to my surprise, this place was empty. Not a soul in sight. There were quite a few locked cabinets scattered throughout this place, full of loot that was definitely worth taking, but nothing extravagant so far. Right at the end of the day, I came across this medical cabinet that had a silver lock on it. I'm not gonna lie, this thing kicked my ass. It was definitely a humbling experience to remind me that I'm not as good at lockpicking as I think I am. Now, I didn't come into here with a tremendous amount of lockpicking equipment, so I decided to leave it for now in case I had to pick other containers. This room was labeled as an armory, which was precisely what I was looking for.
There we go, baby. A scar. Oh.
I managed to find another MAC-10 inside of this room, but the scar was definitely the star of the show. Unfortunately, I didn't have a magazine or any ammunition for it, so for now it was just a pretty side piece. At this point, the place had been fully looted, all except for that silver-locked medical cabinet. You should know by now that I'm a very stubborn man, so I went back and finished what I started. It was not worth it.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
I climbed out of the underground bunker and slipped out undetected. I looted the 2 warehouses in this POI as well, but they didn't have anything notable outside of a chainsaw. Just like that, the military base was clear. A bit of a far cry from the air hangar that I just tackled, but honestly the loot was pretty solid. On my way back to base, I stumbled across this rager that another player had dial-locked. I had never actually encountered what a dial-lock was like before, so I wanted to check it out. From what I could tell, it didn't involve any lockpicking per se, but rather just trial and error. Given that there were over 1,000 possible combinations, though, it wasn't worth my time. Back at base, I was able to upgrade about half of my walls to the metal tier before dropping a hot semen load and logging off. The next time that I logged in, something terrible had happened. I'm just kidding. Everything was fine.
Gotcha, bitch!
My goal for today was to finally complete some missions, which meant that I had to travel to the outpost.
Whoa.
Per the usual, I had to clear the gas station in order to fuel up, but pretty soon I had reached my destination. I brought along a few things to sell while I was here, and realized that I had enough fame points to now purchase some metal arrows, which would save me trips back to the castle. Now, I won't lie, I had some tremendous luck with the general store missions. The first one I grabbed wanted me to turn in 10 bobby pins, and I just so happened to have a box of them on me because I keep them for lockpicking. This meant that I was able to complete the mission within a matter of seconds for a decent amount of money and fame points. The next mission was for 3 chocolate candies, and I thought to myself, I wonder if you can just buy them from the store and then turn them in. As it turns out, you can, and I did, and I completed another mission within a matter of seconds. The third mission wasn't quite as lucrative as the first 2. It required 10 rolls of duct tape, which were not cheap to buy, but I reasoned that the last 2 missions basically paid for half of it, and I had a lot of money to go around. I was basically trading cash for fame points, and I was okay with that. Completing those 3 missions put me on cooldown though, so the general store shenanigans were done at this point. The armorer's mission was to find 3 boxes of 12-gauge shells, and since I didn't have enough fame points to purchase them, this mission was going to be significantly more difficult to complete. I figured my best bet was to go hit up some police stations to find boxes of ammo, as I wanted to get my hands on a SCAR or MAC-10 magazine anyways, so I might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I came across this player-owned tractor on my travels, and figured I would give it a shot to see if I could lockpick it. I needed to save some of my screwdrivers for the police stations I was going to hit, so after 10 failed attempts, I decided to stop. As soon as I approached this police station in town, a couple NPCs come out and started blasting me.
Holy shit.
I took them out one by one and went about my business. This police station didn't disappoint, as I managed to find the first box of shotgun shells that I needed for that mission. I also managed to find a pistol, a shotgun, and an AS Val.
Ooh.
I made sure to hit up all of the garages and workshops in town in my never-ending quest for more screwdrivers, but alas, I came up empty and was forced to the next town. The next town didn't have a police station and was complete trash, so moving on. The next town over was even worse somehow. But that's okay, because my luck was starting to improve. I found this little quad sitting off the side of the road, and when I stopped to check it out, an NPC started blasting me. Now, I'm not sure if I killed him or if a puppet took him out, but when I looted his body, he dropped a weapon cleaning kit.
Ooh.
This little quad had both of its front headlights, which I desperately needed for my quad when I was driving at night. I got them installed and drove to the next town over. I spent a good 10 minutes in this place looting all of the garages and workshops, but it didn't have a police station, so I moved on. The next town over was the same story, but the next town over actually had a police station, and boy am I glad that I stopped. I had to fight off a bunch of NPCs that were roaming around, but once I got inside, I finally managed to find a MAC-10 magazine.
Oh, beautiful.
I followed it up by finding a second box of shotgun shells that I needed for that mission. I only needed one more box of shotgun shells to complete the mission now, but this town was fully looted and I had to move on. I did hit up another police station before the day was over, but it didn't have anything of notable value. For reference, I had looted most of the western coast at this point, and my inventory was pretty fucked. I figured I should probably head back to the outpost, but take a different route so I could watch for more police stations along the way. This ended up panning out, because I managed to find a second MAC-10 magazine in another police station.
Oh, nice.
This was actually a great find, because it meant that I could have one mag in the gun and a spare in my inventory for quick reloads. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to find the third box of shells that I needed, and my inventory was simply overflowing to the point that I had to return to the outpost. I did have enough fame points to purchase some boxes of ammo, but for some reason shotgun shells required more fame than other ammo. After sifting through all of the ammo, weapon attachments, and firearms that I didn't need, I had well over $5,000 worth of stuff to sell. I deposited all of my money into the bank and made the long journey back to base. I repaired all of my gear and used that weapon cleaning kit that I found to fully repair my MAC-10. I found out that you could repair magazines with toolboxes too, so I made sure to fully repair each of them before loading them full of high-quality ammunition. And just like that, people, I had a fully functioning, brand new MAC-10 that I could keep inside of my utility belt as an oh shit button. Now, was this thing as good as that SCAR that I found? No. But I would at least feel a little more confident having this thing on me if I happened to run into another player. Also, semen load. Now, the next time that I logged online, I was laser focused. I wanted to loot at least one more military base before the 100 days was up, so I decided to head to this one to the northwest of my base. Once again, compared to that air hangar I looted, this place was like child's play. Now, I won't pretend that I didn't get caught multiple times, but there was plenty of cover and areas for me to juke behind. Honestly, I was more concerned about all of the self-delete zombies scattered through this place, especially this one that I killed but still kept beeping. Now, most of the stuff that I found here was pretty basic, with the exception of this third MAC-10 magazine and a bulletproof vest. This thing alone was worth the trip here, and just may end up saving my life in the near future. Things got a little bit hairy for a moment when this sentry spotted me and walked up right to where I was laying, but I kept my cool and did my best to break line of sight. I was hoping these metal bunkers would have some good loot inside, but all they contained was more anxiety. I'm assuming these things can have some pretty good loot, but RNG was not on my side this day. When I saw the opening to get out of here, I took it and moved on. With the military base looted, I decided that I should really try to complete this shotgun ammo mission before it expires, but my plan was multifaceted. You see, I also wanted to fully upgrade my base to the metal tier before this challenge was complete, and to do that, I needed a lot of metal. When I got to the next town, I got to work on looting metal scrap from all of the broken down vehicles in the street, and within less than 2 minutes, I had a completely full hiking backpack. Before even tackling that military base, I thought ahead and brought along 3 hiking backpacks so I could swap them out as I filled them up. I also looted the police station in this town periodically as I came across more screwdrivers, but alas, I didn't find the box of shotgun shells that I needed, or really anything of notable value. I managed to fill up one more hiking backpack full of metal before the day was coming to an end. With 2 hiking backpacks full of metal, I decided that it was time to return home. Now, it was pitch black outside at this point, but guess who finally had headlights? This guy. They were super helpful while driving on the road, but I'm still on the fence if they were helpful in the woods or not. They had a tendency of casting some weird shadows, or just not being very helpful because of the uneven terrain, so I turned them off when driving through the woods. Back at base, I finally had enough metal to fully upgrade everything to the metal tier, and let's just say, it was looking pretty sweet. I love the look of the wood mixed with the metal, and it definitely felt more secure than before, albeit only for a few more days in this challenge. Since it was getting late and I had nothing better to do, I decided to cut up that boar and cook a bunch of meat skewers that would last me until the end of this challenge. While all of that was cooking, I started browsing through the game's manual and came across this section regarding dial locks. Apparently, you're supposed to set the combination on these things before you put them on. Now, the one on my door did have a randomized combination, but I figured I might as well set up a custom one. I went with 995, figuring that if someone started at 0 and worked their way up, it was going to take them 995 tries to get it right. Also, semen load.
I'm drowning! Oh, I'm drowning!
So it was now day 96, and I still hadn't managed to kill another player. I was bound and determined that I would check this off the list by whatever means necessary, but time was running out. With only 4 days left in this challenge, I had to resort to, we'll call it, unsavory methods. And by that, I mean that I drove to the most central gas station in B3, parked my quad in a bush, and camped the living shit out of it. No, I'm serious. I camped a gas station. I'm not proud of it, but I was desperate. I got bored pretty quickly and found myself spraying fluids all over the place just to pass the time, but these are my methods and they shall not be questioned. My rituals did manage to draw in some adorable woodland creatures, but alas, no players. I decided to call it for now and try again during peak hours. The next time I tried to log in, the server had 0 players. Considering my only remaining goal at this point was to kill a player, it wasn't even worth logging in.
Disappointed!
The next time I checked the server, there were 3 people online, which is the most that I had seen in 3 days, so I decided it was time to log back on. It had been about 4 days in real life at this point, so I was kinda shocked to see that my quad was still sitting in the bush where I left it. While I was tempted to just camp the gas station again, I decided to be a bit more adventurous. I spent the entire day traveling from town to town looking for any signs of other players. I kept a sharp lookout for any dead zombies, open doors, or NPCs fighting, but alas, there was nothing. I even checked outside of a radiation zone for player vehicles, thinking that maybe I could camp their car and kill them when they returned, but alas,
my tiny little nipples went to France.
Eventually, I made my way back to the scrapyard, but once again, there was no sign of anybody. I cut my losses and logged off again to try another day. The next time I went to log in, there were 5 players online, so the chances of finding somebody were better than last time. I spent a few minutes quickly rescouting the scrapyard for signs of players, but alas, I came up short and it was time to move on. As I approached the gas station outside of the brick factory, I heard some gunshots and thought that perhaps my luck was about to change.
Is that a player? Might be a player? Okay, no, it's an NPC. Holy hell.
This actually got a bit sketchy for a moment, but that 357 pistol was burning a hole in my pocket anyways, so I decided to break it out for once. It worked well. It worked very well. The real reason that I was here, though, was to fuel up so I could make it back to the outpost. My quad was in pretty rough condition at this point, and if I was going to drive around for another 2 days, I simply had to take the time to repair it. I still couldn't bring myself to pay the exorbitant fee the mechanic wanted to repair the chassis, though, so I just bought a car repair kit to use on it. I was really hoping to find some players lingering around, but unfortunately this place was empty. I spent the rest of the day scouting nearby towns and gas stations again, but just like the previous few days, I had no luck. I parked my quad in a bush and logged off for about a week until I could find the energy to give this thing another go. The next time that I tried logging in, there was only one other player online, and while I was hesitant to even bother trying to track this guy down, something was telling me to give it a go. I approached it differently this time, though, and by that, I mean I straight up just talked to this guy through global chat. Much to my surprise, he actually responded. I was as blunt as I could possibly be with this guy, explaining that I was making a 100-day challenge video, and I wanted to kill him. In exchange for the kill, I would give him all of my stuff before logging off, essentially being a win-win for the both of us. He agreed to meet me at the outpost in B4, although I could tell he was skeptical about the whole situation. Once we finally managed to meet face-to-face inside of the outpost, though, he began to realize just how serious I was about this exchange.
Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. Hello. I pulled out a bunch of cash for you so that you can respawn. Put it in the ground for you.
Bro, what the f***? Actually? What the f***? Bro, serious?
I'm 100% serious, dude.
Okay, yeah, dude, you gave me $28,000. Yeah, that's more than anything I have worth anything. So let me just deposit that real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Respawn. You can kill me, no problem.
All right, very good.
Day 100 was officially here, and we were off to perform the final ritual. The plan was to drive this gentleman into the same sector as my base, kill him, and then pick him up wherever he respawns. Along the drive, we got to talking, and if I'm being honest, this guy was great. He was super chill and genuinely one of the nicest dudes I've met in an online game. It would have felt like a truly wholesome moment had I not literally been driving him to his death.
Dude, the NPCs are brutal in this game.
Man, they are relentless, and if you don't hear them right away, you just start getting shot out of nowhere.
Yeah, I have trouble, like, differentiating them from actual players.
Sometimes me too, you never know.
After a short drive into the next sector, the time had finally come to check off the last thing on my list.
This is where it's gonna go down at.
Alright.
Alright, once you respawn, let me know where you're at and I'll come pick you up. Here we go, dude. Thank you.
And just like that, I had finally killed another player on the last day of the challenge. Now granted, it was not in the manner that I was hoping for, but to be honest, I'm really happy it went down this way. I held true to my word and drove to his respawn location to pick him up. On the drive back to my base, we shared in some more wholesome conversations about the game and the current situation.
Dude, the way your body flopped.
I bet too, I bet. I wish I could only see it, honestly. Like, I don't get to see it. I
mean, if you watch my video I'm making, you'll see it.
Fair, this is true. I watch tons of videos all the time. The guys might actually not believe me on what happened.
Probably not.
They might think that I just, like, stayed up and just built it all myself and did it all. I came up with some wild story to pretend like I didn't know life it.
When we reached the quarry, I explained where my base was, and he couldn't believe it.
There's no way. I've probably passed by here like a million times by now, running back and forth. B4 is like the base settlement for everybody to go to.
Yeah, it's pretty well hidden. I mean, I even have trouble finding it sometimes. So, I'm just gonna take off all the locks on this shit and throw them in an inventory for you.
I feel like I'm gonna shit my pants.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like a super rich player, but there's a lot of shit here, so.
What the f***? What the f***? Okay, I shit my pants a little.
Maybe a little bit?
Just a little bit. I'm man enough to admit it.
Yeah, there's a lot more in this storage shelf over here.
Bro, what the f***? Okay, I don't not believe you that you were on here for 100 f***ing days. Jesus.
Yeah, it's been like probably 60-ish hours.
We struggled with the whole base transfer side of things because Scum is clunky, but we eventually settled on me destroying the base flag, which would hopefully give him the option to place down his own in the near future. I made him promise to take care of my precious quad that I had grown so fondly of in my time in this game, to which he was agreeable. Now this guy took a big hit in fame points by letting me kill him, so I thought that it was only fair that I repaid the favor.
Nice knowing you, man.
Nice knowing you, man. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Appreciate it.
Have fun.
Catch you later. I will.
Well, that's anticlimactic.
It would help if I reloaded it.
Alright, see ya.
See ya.
Now, if you've actually managed to make it to the end of this video, I can't help but think that you've enjoyed watching my 100 days journey. If that's the case, then please be sure to leave this video a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. These projects are absolute monstrosities to tackle, involving hundreds of hours of gameplay, script writing, voice acting, and editing, so any support you could show would be greatly appreciated. I also want to give a special shout out to Lutheus, who was kind enough to allow me to use short clips of his content in my video. If you're interested in trying out Scum for the first time, or you're a returning player like myself, his channel is jam-packed with incredibly helpful guides and tips to help you understand the game. There's going to be links to his channel and the respective video that I use in the description down below. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my Scum playthrough, and I hope to see you again in my next 100 days journey. Look, dude, I know.
Oh
my player kill was a little bit unconventional.
Unconventional? You had to pay someone to kill them?
Yeah, but like the server is always dead, and you can't say I didn't put in the effort.
You put in the effort, all right. You showed that gas station who's boss.
Well, look, man, I'm not much of a killer, and that experience was wholesome as shit, so you can shove it.
No, I'm fine with it. You're just so fucking bad at this game, it's hysterical.
Alright, well, I completed your challenge and your checklist, albeit in slightly different ways than both of us expected. So can I just move on now?
Oh yeah, we're done here. I'm afraid that if you spend any more time here, you might trip on your shoelaces and die again.
Well, I'm afraid that if you spend any more time here, you might lose all sense of sexual preference.
Yeah, it's been weird. Let's get out of here.
Oh, dude, there's no way!
Oh, this is gonna be fun.